Chapter 1725. The Skyer Palace Lord understood that Qin Wentian's words were naturally true. The sword wound on his neck was still there. Earlier, he had already taken a stroll in front of the god of death. Qin Wentian was arrogant and conceited? Who was the arrogant one exactly? As the personal disciple of the lifelong realm lord, the Skyer Palace Lord, one of the 3 strongest palace lords in the 9 world palaces, he actually couldn't even withstand a single strike from Qin Wentian. Not only was the Skyer Palace Lord speechless, the Xianyuan Palace Lord, Dragon Saddle Palace Lord and Kungvuda Palace Lord were all staring at the wound on the Skyer Palace Lord's neck, unable to speak for a long time. The Xianyuan Palace Lord's expression was extremely unsightly to behold. Earlier, he was still mocking Qin Wentian. Now his face was directly smacked. Qin Wentian used his strength to tell them that it didn't matter how long one cultivated or how famous one was. He had just broken through to the Empyrean realm, and was able to kill the Lifefire Empyrean back then. Now he could similarly defeat them, or even kill them. However, Qin Wentian didn't kill him. After all, the Skyer Palace Lord was the personal disciple of the lifelong realm lord. If Qin Wentian killed him, there was no need for him to return to the lifelong realm. Yi Qianyu and the others were still in the Lifefire Palace. Hence, it was impossible for him to kill the Skyer Palace Lord. However, this strike was enough to make the Skyer Palace Lord unable to forget it for the rest of his life. Who else has any objections? Qin Wentian glanced at the 4 palace lords. At this moment, his voice no longer sounded arrogant in the ears of everyone. It was filled with imposingness and self-confidence. Such a powerful aura involuntarily gushed forth. This was might, the might that belonged to experts. Only with strength would people view you in a different light. If you weren't strong enough, you would be arrogant. If you were strong enough, you would be imposing. At this moment, the 4 palace lords all fell silent. If they continued to speak, if Qin Wentian invited them to spar, how should they respond? Should they let Qin Wentian leave a wound on their necks? They didn't feel that they had the strength to win against the Skyer Palace Lord. What illusion technique did you use? The Skyer Palace Lord asked with some reluctance. He wanted to understand why the second scene was still an illusion. Also, he had clearly seen through Qin Wentian's illusions, and could clearly smell the scent of blood. There was no way he would be wrong. The Skyer Palace Lord asked with a hint of reluctance. Qin Wentian coldly glanced at him. He had comprehended the origin of illusionary laws, and could use illusionary arts with a single thought. Powerful illusionary arts could not only deceive the eyes, they could also deceive the senses of smell, immortal sense, and perception. The illusionary arts he cultivated were all obtained from the tiny astral being. After the unification of Azure Mystic, he taught the immortal emperors in the Heaven Empyrean Palace. During his free time, he cultivated this art and gradually became more proficient in it. This illusionary art was named Mirrored Flowers, Water Moon. The flower in the mirror and the moon in the water were both unfathomable and illusory. There were a total of 3 levels to illusionary arts. The Skyer Palace Lord wasn't strong enough, and could only see through the first level. Although he saw through the second level, it was already too late, and he had already fallen for it. Even if he could see through the second level, there was still the third level. This was precisely the reason why illusionary arts were so terrifying. When someone saw through your illusionary arts, they would definitely lower their guard. Hence, the second level of illusionary arts arrived. And when you even saw through the second level, and were feeling complacent, the third level would descend upon you. This type of illusionary art was simply too fatal. The Skyer Palace Lord had never fought against Qin Wentian before, and had seen such illusionary arts before. He naturally fell for it. Qin Wentian naturally wouldn't tell the Skyer Palace Lord that the innate techniques of stellar martial cultivators were extremely useful in battle. How could he tell an enemy? Was it he who imparted it to you? The Skyer Palace Lord transmitted his voice over, his expression unsightly to behold. He was also a world overlord character, comparable to his master, the lifelong realm lord. He thought that he had imparted a powerful innate technique to Qin Wentian, which was why he was defeated. As for other aspects of combat prowess, he didn't feel that he would be weaker than Qin Wentian. He wasn't willing to admit it. You can go and complain to the realm lord first. Just say that I wanted to bring my senior sister along with me, but you obstructed me and was defeated by me with a single sword strike. If you don't explain things clearly, I will convey the Realm Lord's words to you in the future. Qin Wentian still didn't reply to the Skyer Palace Lord's question. He continued to speak, his words causing the Skyer Palace Lord to turn ashen. He was the personal disciple of the lifelong Realm Lord, while Qin Wentian was Yi's personal disciple. What would his master think if he learned of this? Not only did he throw away his own face, he also threw away the face of the lifelong Realm Lord. Hence, he had to hide this matter as much as he could. If his master's face wasn't good, he would surely be disappointed in him and distance himself from him. Qin Wentian's silhouette flashed, directly vanishing from his original location. He appeared beside Qing and the others as he spoke in a low voice, "Let's go." Princess Kitamura cast a deep glance at Qin Wentian. She also didn't expect that Qin Wentian was already so powerful. She was very clear about what sort of character the Skyer Palace Lord was, but he was actually defeated so easily, leaving behind a bloody wound. Qin Wentian could even kill the Skyer Palace Lord on the spot. If the Skyer Palace Lord wasn't the personal disciple of the lifelong Realm Lord, or if Qin Wentian wasn't someone from the lifelong realm, the Skyer Palace Lord would already be a dead man. As for the people of Azure Mystic, they were already used to this. When Qin Wentian unified the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, many Empyreans died in his hands. In their eyes, it was extremely normal for Qin Wentian to defeat Empyreans at the same level as him. After all, they didn't understand what sort of character the Skyer Palace Lord was. After they left, the Skyer Palace Lord glanced at the three Palace Lords and spoke, "Everyone, don't tell Master about this matter for now. Princess Kitamura didn't travel together with us. She has already disobeyed Master's orders. When the time comes, we won't be able to absolve ourselves from the blame." The three Palace Lords silently cursed in their hearts. This fellow was trying to drag them down with him. He actually wanted to conceal this matter. However, they could understand his thoughts and nodded their heads with heavy expressions. The Xianyuan Palace Lord stared at Qin Wentian's vanishing silhouette as he silently mused. In the lifelong realm, other than the Realm Lord, most probably only that person from the Desolate Heaven Palace would be able to suppress Qin Wentian. They truly didn't expect that the Lifefire Palace would have such a powerful Palace Lord rise up in such a short period of time. To them, this wasn't a good thing. Earlier, their relationship with Qin Wentian had already been strained. Most probably, it would be very difficult to mend the cracks between them. But luckily, there was the Skyer Palace Lord watching over them. He was also the personal disciple of the Realm Lord. There was no need for them to care too much about him. The few of them then instructed their subordinates to keep this a secret. After that, they also moved forward, entering the depths of this forbidden ground to search for more secrets. If they could really obtain some good fortune in this ancient battlefield, they could toss everything to the back of their minds. Qin Wentian and the others continued on their way. Powerful spatial source energy gushed forth from him, enveloping everyone within it as they passed through spatial gates, traveling 1,000 miles in an instant. In his mind, the will of the ancient heavenly deity was guiding him in the right direction. "Senior, where are we going?" The spatial source energy around Qin Wentian brought everyone through another spatial gate, vanishing from their original location. At the same time, he asked the ancient heavenly deity. The central area of ancient Azure Mystic, the former floating city, the most flourishing place in the world. It's also the center of the ancient battlefield. If we want to search for good fortune, that place should be the most suitable. There would surely be divine depositories buried there. The ancient heavenly deity replied. "How long do we need?" Qin Wentian asked. "Your speed is too slow. This world has already transformed into a desolate land, and there are no teleportation arrays here. If we rush like this, we might need 2 to 3 years. The ancient heavenly deity replied. Qin Wentian's heart trembled. Although he was mentally prepared, he was still badly shaken by a single sentence from the ancient heavenly deity. Now that he has stepped into the Empyrean realm, and became the Heaven Empyrean of Azure Mystic, he was told that his speed was too slow, needing 2 to 3 years to reach a place. This was simply speechless. But when he thought about what sort of character the ancient heavenly deity was when he was alive, he could understand. A heavenly deity. How much stronger was he compared to an Empyrean? There was simply no way to compare them. It was like the difference between the sun in the sky and an ant on the ground. As for the time taken, it was also very normal. Ancient Azure Mystic was a place that could contend against the heavenly deities of the supreme ancient immortal realms. How vast was this place in the past? Qin Wentian only needed to imagine the current size of the lifelong realm, and he would be able to understand. To him, the lifelong realm was already an extremely vast place. AI. Qin Wentian sighed in a depressed manner. Just traveling there required 2 to 3 years of time? He truly felt somewhat speechless. Why are you sighing? If there really is a divine depositories, even if others spend thousands or tens of thousands of years, they wouldn't feel that the time taken is long. Everyone in the world pursues the great Tao, and to those with a higher cultivation base, a single stroke of good fortune can save them 1,000,000 years of cultivation. 2 to 3 years is simply a drop of water in the ocean. It's insufficient to reach the apex. The ancient heavenly deity seemed to know what Qin Wentian was thinking as he calmly spoke. 1,000,000 years. Qin Wentian bitterly smiled and shook his head. Junior has only cultivated for a short period of time. I have no way to imagine how many years I would have to spend. Your talent can be considered the best among those I've met. You didn't grow up in those major powers of the heavenly deity race, but you still have to endure loneliness. Most probably, that person who imparted the undying scripture to you not only hoped that you would protect Azure Mystic, he also placed his hopes on you to revive Azure Mystic. Revive? Qin Wentian started. How many months and years would it take for a destroyed world to revive Azure Mystic? Haha, since you have cultivated the undying scripture, as long as you don't die, the most scarce thing in this world is time. For an undying existence, as long as your talent is sufficient, you would be able to corroborate your Tao sooner or later. Could it be that you don't understand the meaning of undying? The ancient heavenly deity's voice was solemn. Undying means that one can conquer time and ascend to the divine altar. Qin Wentian started. He truly didn't think about the meaning of undying from this perspective. Was this why the undying scripture was so powerful? As long as I don't die, I would be able to ascend to the peak. Time would always be by my side. In this world, there has never been a lack of geniuses, including supreme characters. But who can say that they are undying? The vast majority of them all fell at different cultivation bases, turning into dust. They all had unparalleled talent, but ultimately, they were defeated by the enemy known as time. But for an undying person, they would never be defeated. The great Tao is the simplest, but the strongest Tao is the simplest logic. Chapter 1726. The ancient heaven deity wasn't wrong. The most precious and scarce thing in this world was time, but the thing it lacked the least was time as well. Time would never stop flowing. In the blink of an eye, it has already been 2 years since Qin Wentian entered ancient Azure Mystic for the second time. During these 2 years, many things happened in the outside world. This was especially so for the supreme ancient immortal realms. There were countless things happening every day. However, all of them were merely a drop in the ocean, unable to reach the apex. Only this time around, the commotion of ancient Azure Mystic's reappearance persisted for 2 years. Not only did it not subside, it actually grew increasingly intense. Because there were many powers that entered ancient Azure Mystic, news of this was transmitted to the upper world unceasingly. From the lower world, the supreme ancient immortal realms learned that not only did ancient Azure Mystic reappear, the remnant wills of a heavenly deity also appeared. One of the incomparably powerful heavenly deity races in the supreme ancient immortal realms, the winged god race, actually appeared in ancient Azure Mystic and possessed the body of a descendant of the winged god race. However, only the people of the winged god clan knew that the genius who was possessed had already fallen. Yufifan was dead. This news was kept a secret, but they still sent even more experts to Azure Mystic. They had to bring the will of their ancestor back to the winged god race. This was a death order, and they had to do it at all costs. That was their ancestor, a heavenly deity. Although he wasn't a living being and was only a strand of will, The memories he knew were extremely precious to the winged god race. After the incident with the winged god race, some of the major powers from the heavenly deity race who had once fought against ancient Azure Mystic all sent out their armies. This time around, it wasn't like the small skirmishes of those pathfinders. It was a true army of Empyreans. How powerful was the foundation of the ancient and powerful heavenly deity race? It was so long that it was impossible to calculate the amount of time they had existed. As long as they still existed, what scale would they grow to after so many years? Some of the deity race even had a population of hundreds of millions, encompassing boundless territories. These were just the people within their race, their blood-related clansmen, followers, and servants. Extremely strong characters were dispatched, personally escorting the experts of the clan across the celestial realms to the outskirts of Azure Mystic, sending them into Azure Mystic. Hence, Azure Mystic became extremely lively. The supreme ancient immortal realms was no longer a secret. Many people heard of this news, and many places also claimed that they had seen experts from the upper world. Hence, some ambitious people in Azure Mystic were filled with boundless yearning towards the upper world. Qin Wentian naturally knew of the changes in the external world because Di Tian had always been guarding Heaven Empyrean City. The two of them were connected in their hearts, and their insights could be shared as well. There was no need for both of them to enter ancient Azure Mystic. It would be better for one of them to protect ancient Azure Mystic in the dark. After all, his original self, Qin Wentian, brought away all the experts from Azure Mystic. There was no need for Di Tian to stay behind. Luckily, these people from the supreme ancient immortal realms had their sights set on ancient Azure Mystic. They basically had no interest in this weak Azure Mystic immortal realms. Although some unhappy things happened, they were all small-scale disturbances. This was something unavoidable. After the vast majority of people arrived, they immediately headed to the Forbidden Grounds. However, today, 2 years later, Qin Wentian and his group were still rushing their way. Naturally, they weren't purely rushing their way. They would stop occasionally. For example, at this moment, in a desolate land, Qin Wentian stood on the peak of an ancient mountain and stared at a beautiful figure sitting cross-legged in front of him. This figure was none other than Princess Kitamura. Before her, there were many zombies moving about, guarding this area. These zombies had lifeless eyes, but they would occasionally flash with a bright light, appearing extremely bizarre. Drawing in a deep breath, Princess Kitamura stopped. Her beautiful eyes opened as she stared at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's silhouette flashed as he appeared beside Princess Kitamura. He then asked in a light voice, "Are you all right?" "I'm fine. However, the consumption of this tempering method is too great. Given the strength of my soul now, although I can freely control the zombies, it's extremely strenuous to make them listen to my commands. This is especially so for the Empyrean zombies. The burden on my soul is extremely great." Princess Kitamura spoke in a light voice. Qin Wentian nodded. He could understand. After all, Princess Kitamura was only at the peak stage of the immortal emperor realm. She, who cultivated the death scripture, could freely control zombies that had no self-consciousness. But if she wanted to control them to unleash their combat prowess, the burden on Princess Kitamura would be too great. Right now, she could only control a small number of Empyreans. Once there were too many Empyreans, the burden on her soul would increase exponentially, and her soul wouldn't be able to endure it. Also, during the process of controlling the zombies, she mustn't be distracted. This meant that she wouldn't be able to fight freely. It was best for her to stay there quietly. To her main body, this was an extremely dangerous matter. However, it could also be resolved by controlling the zombies to protect her. At the very least, she wouldn't be seen through by others and wouldn't let others know that she was the one controlling the zombies. This was also the reason why Qin Wentian and Princess Kitamura were here alone. Even Princess Kitamura's father, the Dark North Immortal Emperor, didn't tell him the truth. This was related to the inheritance of the imperishable Heaven Lord of ancient Azure Mystic. He naturally had to keep it a secret. Once the slightest news leaked out, he and Princess Kitamura would become the targets of countless hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms. In fact, even the heavenly deity race would be among them. If that was the case, They wouldn't even know how they died. Do your best to control the zombies and increase your proficiency in controlling them. By doing so, your resistance will grow stronger and stronger. Qin Wentian spoke. These weren't his words. They were the words the ancient heavenly deities will in his mind wanted to say. He was merely conveying the will of the ancient heavenly deity. Right. Bai Minghuang nodded. Senior has already reminded me many times. Along the way, I've been controlling the zombies to accompany us. Qin Wentian laughed involuntarily. Let's return. Bai Minghuang nodded. Qin Wentian's spatial energy enveloped her, and the two of them instantly left, regrouping with the others a moment later. The Dark North Immortal Emperor had a meaningful look on his face when he saw the two of them coming over. Sometimes he was thinking about the relationship between the Heaven Empyrean Qin Wentian and his daughter, Princess Kitamura. Exactly? The two of them must have gone out alone quite a few times. Many people also smiled as they glanced at the Dark North Immortal Emperor. If Princess Kitamura was able to form a relationship with the Heaven Empyrean, the status of the Dark North Immortal Emperor would be no different from the Chongqing the Great. However, with both the Chongqing the Great and Qing Heir around, no one would be foolish enough to mention this. Qin Wentian didn't say anything. He walked to the side of Qing Heir and held her hand. The others might not know, but Qing Heir understood. He would often go out alone with Princess Kitamura in front of Qing Heir. If he hid this from Qing Heir, what would this mean? It would be too disrespectful to Qing Heir. There were no secrets between them. Qing Heir's expression didn't change at all. Her master had also hinted to her once before, and she was somewhat speechless. If Qin Wentian really wanted to marry, she wouldn't say anything. In addition, she knew the reason and also knew that the two of them had experienced many things together in the supreme ancient immortal realms. The group of them continued on their journey, encountering many troubles along the way. Some of the zombies had extremely strong killing intents. Even if they were already dead, they wouldn't forget to kill when they saw people. However, Qin Wentian never tangled with them. Also, with the ancient heavenly deities Will and Bai Minghuang around, there wasn't much delay. Finally, another half a year passed and they arrived at their destination, the Sky City. This was the center of ancient Azure Mystic, the most flourishing place. One could imagine how majestic the Sky City must have been in the past. But now Qin Wentian and the others arrived below the city. They inclined their heads and stared upwards, only to see a vast expanse of desolation that stretched as far as the eyes could see. The Sky City, as the name implied, was a city that stood in the sky. This was a city that rose from flat ground and was tens of thousands of meters tall. At the entrance of the city, there was a flight of stairs that was tens of thousands of meters tall. Only by ascending the stairs would one be able to enter the city. From the broken and majestic stairway, one could imagine how majestic it must have been in ancient times. But even so, the flight of stairs was broken and the city gate collapsed. Everything was in ruins, desolation, and deathly silence. Under the dark sun, everything seemed to have withered away, causing everyone to truly feel the scene of the apocalypse. They ascended the city step by step and continued forward. From the dilapidated walls, they could faintly see the majesty of ancient times. The number of zombies in this city grew even more. All of them seemed to be filled with an incomparable longing for the place they protected when they were alive. Sadly, they were powerless to protect it. Qin Wentian saw an extremely powerful zombie hugging a tiny infant. He didn't move at all, as though he couldn't bear to put the infant down. When he was alive, he wasn't able to protect his child. He also saw an iron-towering giant wielding a terrifying divine weapon. He stood in front of a stretch of ruins, resembling a divinity. However, his eyes were empty and lifeless. The things he once protected were no longer there. These scenes impacted the hearts of everyone, causing them to involuntarily feel sorrow. This was war, cruel and cold-blooded. Also, this was a world-ending war. Those heavenly deities who came here to fight, what were the lives of the people in their eyes? At this moment, a figure sped over. This was a giant that was over 10,000 meters tall. However, he didn't have a head as it was chopped off by someone. It was extremely terrifying. He stared at everyone, and it was unknown where his voice originated from. Where did you guys come from? He lifted a terrifying great axe in his hand. In an instant, a stifling pressure enveloped this entire space. If he cleaved down with his axe, it would be sufficient to destroy everything. I brought them here. A voice rang out from within Qin Wentian's body. Who are you? That giant's voice rang out once more. This body should be the body of Futian Battle God when he was alive. I didn't expect that his head would be chopped off. Sir, are you the will of Futian Battle God or the will of others? A shadow flew out from the center of Qin Wentian's brow, condensing into a human figure. Skybreak Heavenly Deity. The voice of the other party fluctuated. I didn't expect that your will would still exist, and you were actually willing to leave this place. I am none other than Futian. Where did these people come from? The Skybreak Heavenly Deity actually abandoned this place and brought them here. Because the prophecy of the Heaven Lord is about to be fulfilled. Hence I'm here. The Skybreak Heavenly Deity spoke. The gigantic body of Futian Battle God trembled. After that, a solemn voice that seemed to originate from the primordial era rang out. When the Undying returns, Azure Mystic will reappear, bringing chaos to the 33 heavens. Chapter 1727. Although the Futian Battle God didn't have a head, Qin Wentian felt as though he was looking at him. Upon hearing that ancient and solemn voice, his heart couldn't calm down. Was the Undying return referring to him? The reappearance of Azure Mystic was happening right now. However, how could it be so easy to bring chaos to the 33 heavens? That old freak actually had such high hopes for him? Also, could this prophecy have been left behind by the imperishable Heaven Lord? He wasn't clear about all these and could only guess. What is your name? He asked Qin Wentian. The will of the Skybreak Heavenly Deity originated from Qin Wentian. In that case, it was very clear that the main character of the prophecy was none other than this young man before him. Qin Wentian. Why did the Skybreak Heavenly Deity say that the prophecy is about to come true? The Futian Battle God asked again. He cultivates the Undying Scripture, and is now the overlord of Azure Mystic. He is revered as the Heaven Empyrean by the people of Azure Mystic, unifying the entire Azure Mystic immortal realms. Could it be that all of this isn't enough to prove the prophecy? The wills of the Skybreak Heavenly Deity and the Futian Battle God conversed. No one could hear their conversation, but at this moment, everyone understood that the reason why Qin Wentian brought them here was because of a great secret. No wonder Qin Wentian was so cautious. Since they chose to come here, it seems like things were really as they thought. There was no turning back, and they had to continue walking down this path. However, this was their choice. They were willing to do so. The people before them actually had the titles of Heavenly Deity and Battle God. Such existences were something they couldn't imagine. They only knew that by choosing to come here, they would receive a great stroke of good fortune that might change their lives. Who are these people then? The Futian Battle God glanced at the others as he asked. Clearly, he already agreed with the Skybreak Heavenly Deity's words. Since Qin Wentian cultivated the Undying Scripture, and was the overlord of Azure Mystic had also reappeared. Everything undoubtedly pointed towards the prophecy. Everything would start from the beginning again. They are all people from Azure Mystic, my kin, elders and friends. Right now, they are helping me to control the Azure Mystic immortal realms. Senior Skybreak Heavenly Deity told me to bring them here, hence, I summoned them here. Qin Wentian spoke. That's right. Although my will has never left this place, I believe that in this floating city, there are many existences similar to you and me. Since the will of the Futian Battle God is still in this world, there must be others whose wills haven't been destroyed yet. The Skybreak Heavenly Deity spoke. I hope that the main character of the prophecy can inherit these wills and pave the way for the prophecy. Just like what you said, there are indeed existences similar to me in this floating city. After countless years, they endured the loneliness of desolation. Even though they knew that they were already dead, they were still unwilling to leave this place. It wasn't because they missed this world, but because their homeland has already been destroyed. Their family members are no longer around. Every day that their wills exist is a torment. The Skybreak Heavenly Deity's will is unwilling to be destroyed until today. Most probably, it's because of the desire for revenge, even if the hope is so minuscule. The Futian battle god sighed. Since the prophecy exists, as long as there's a trace of hope, I would still endure the loneliness of millions and millions of years. Now, I've finally seen the light of hope. The Skybreak heavenly deity spoke. Futian battle god. Aren't you guys the same as well? Yeah. Why are we willing to wait? It's because of the prophecy. To think that the apocalyptic Azure mystic would actually reappear one day. His voice was incomparably solemn. He stared at everyone before him as he continued. It's just that these people are so weak. Even if their talent is high enough, would they be qualified to inherit the wills of the heavenly deities? Talent is always relative, isn't it? The Skybreak heavenly deity spoke. From Wentian, I understand that after Azure Mystic was sealed, even half-step world overlords are extremely rare. This is simply unimaginable. Given the lack of resources and the sealed environment, it's already considered not bad for them to be able to cultivate to the immortal Emperor realm. They can't be compared to the juniors of the heavenly deity race. They were destined to be extraordinary since birth. But now, as long as they can inherit the wills of the heavenly deities, I believe that they would also be extraordinary in the future. The Skybreak heavenly deity continued. Great waves of shock rose in the hearts of everyone. Inherit the wills of heavenly deities? They simply didn't dare to imagine that such a day would come. A lofty heavenly deity, an existence they had never heard of before, actually wanted to inherit their wills now? Naturally, by inheriting the wills of heavenly deities, one would also have to inherit their mission. To gain, one would have to pay the price. One last question. Can I trust him? The Futian battle god's words were naturally referring to Qin Wentian. You don't need to trust him. You only need to believe in the prophecy, believe in that existence. Since the ancient battlefield has already reappeared, and he has already appeared before you, Futian battle god, you should know what this means. The Skybreak heavenly deity's voice was very calm. He didn't test Qin Wentian's character or talent. All of these weren't things he needed to consider. Just like what he said, as long as Qin Wentian appeared before him, everything would already have a conclusion. He didn't need to trust Qin Wentian. He only needed to believe in the prophecy. That was already enough. Right. The Futian battle god decisively agreed when he heard the Skybreak heavenly deity's words. He didn't say anything more. All of them were very clear about the meaning behind his words. Indeed, they basically didn't need to understand Qin Wentian, and didn't need to trust him. Since he came here, it meant that everything before him had already been done by others. What they needed to accomplish next was their mission. That existence, is he that old fellow? Qin Wentian silently mused. It should be him. It was none other than that old fellow who imparted the undying scripture to him. Qin Wentian guessed that that old fellow should be the one who sealed Azure Mystic and protected the ancient battlefield. This time around, that old fellow relaxed the seal. Was it a coincidence, or was everything destined long ago? That old fellow had been watching everything from the shadows. Get on my body. The Futian battle god spoke. His body was over 10,000 meters tall, and could easily accommodate many people. Qin Wentian didn't hesitate. With a flash of his silhouette, he directly landed on the broad shoulders of the Futian battle god. The place where the head was severed was no longer bleeding. It was completely empty, like only an empty shell was left. When everyone saw Qin Wentian's actions, they all flew over, moving to different parts of the Futian battle god's body. Qing came to the side of Qin Wentian. There were no fluctuations in her beautiful eyes. No matter what Qin Wentian encountered, she would walk down this path together with him. The path ahead was filled with thistles and thorns. Even if they were consigned to eternal damnation, they would have no regrets in this life. At this moment, everyone who stood on the back of the Futian battle god clearly understood that from now onwards, they were destined to follow Qin Wentian. They would obtain everything they once dreamed of, and they would also have to bear the responsibility of everything that was given to them. The gazes of everyone stared ahead. They didn't know what the path ahead would be like, but their eyes were filled with determination. The Futian battle god took a step forward, causing the earth to tremble. His 10,000-meter body stomped on the ground, traversing a vast distance with a single step. This city was none other than a floating city, the central city of ancient Azure Mystic. How vast was it? When the Futian battle god took a step forward, everyone felt as though they were shuttling through space. Although his steps seemed very slow, like he was walking step by step, it was unknown how much distance he had traversed. Finally, the Futian battle god arrived before an ancient palace that was completely undamaged. Everything here was so majestic, like it had never suffered any damage before. You guys have reforged your divinity. The Skybreak heavenly deity stared at everything before him as he spoke. In front of him, there was a divine statue. This was an incomparably gigantic statue made of white jade. However, what Qin Wentian saw wasn't a supreme sense of imposingness. Rather, it was an incomparably dignified and holy beauty. Because the statue of this divine statue was actually a female. She was a supreme beauty that was extremely rare in the world. Qin Wentian seemed to have guessed something as shock appeared in his heart. This is the imperishable Heaven Lord. As expected at this moment, the Skybreak heavenly deity spoke. Qin Wentian's heart involuntarily trembled. The imperishable Heaven Lord was actually a female, a woman of such magnificence. He stared blankly at the divine statue before him. A woman actually managed to ascend to the peak of the martial path. How terrifying was this? Not only was Qin Wentian shocked, everyone in the surroundings were shocked as well. This was especially so for Princess Kitamura, the Southern Phoenix matriarch, the Jadestige Palace mistress, GD, and the other women. The imperishable Heaven Lord was the same as them, a woman. Although women were weaker compared to men in terms of cultivation, they were still able to ascend to the peak. Qin Wentian got down from the Futian battle god's body and bowed to the divine statue. This could be considered half a master to him. Although he could only see her statue, the others also followed behind Qin Wentian and bowed. Experts deserved respect. This was especially so for someone who was once a supreme character of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. She didn't mind dying in battle, and didn't want to submit to the various heavenly deities of the supreme ancient immortal realms. How imposing was this? The Futian battle god took out his divine axe and swung it in the air. A beam of light shot up into the clouds, wanting to split the sky asunder. Very swiftly, voices drifted over from afar. Numerous zombies appeared. Some of them had golden eyes, although they were already lifeless. There were also some who had white eyes. There were even some whose bodies were split apart from the middle, only their legs were still connected. Although these zombies were already dead, their wills were still unextinguished. When they saw Qin Wentian and the others appearing, all of them turned to the Futian battle god and asked, "Futian, where did they come from?" The seal on Azure Mystic has been lifted and experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms have descended. These people came from a prophecy. The Futian battle god spoke. The various heavenly deities here were all stunned by his words. The seal on Azure Mystic has been lifted. They came from a prophecy. Has Undying returned? Someone asked. It's him. The Futian battle god pointed his gigantic finger at Qin Wentian. At this moment, numerous beams of light flashed. Above these zombies, illusory figures could be seen floating out. All of them were in human form. Although they only had unextinguished wills, a single glance from them gave off a lofty feeling, like they were divinities. It was like their wills were supreme existences. We've waited for countless years and endured countless years of loneliness. Today, everyone, please search for suitable people to inherit your wills. The Futian battle god spoke. Chapter 1728. Qin Wentian and the others had looks of shock on their faces. They would be able to obtain the inheritance of a heavenly deity? This was simply unimaginable even in their dreams. Lofty heavenly deities only existed in the legends of Azure Mystic. They basically had no idea what sort of cultivation realm that was. Right now, after following Qin Wentian, they actually had such a heaven-defying stroke of luck. As expected of the Saint Lord. The experts from the Battle Saint tribe stared at Qin Wentian, as they sighed with emotions in their hearts. Seems like the Saint Lord of this generation might very well create history. He was actually the inheritor of the prophecy of this world. The Saint Lord wasn't merely the Saint Lord of their Battle Saint tribe. He also had other missions on his shoulders. Also, the power of ancient Azure Mystic formed by these people seemed to be even more terrifying compared to their ancient Battle Saint tribe. This buried land has finally seen the light of day again. In that case, did the people from the supreme ancient immortal realms come as well? A heavenly deity asked. Yes, they are currently entering. But because they don't know the situation here, I was the fastest to arrive here. I fought against a heavenly deity from the winged god race, borrowing Qin Wentian's body, while he borrowed the body of a descendant of the winged god race. The Skybreak heavenly deity spoke. Also, as more and more people from the supreme ancient immortal realms enter, no matter how vast ancient Azure Mystic is, it's destined to be filled with their people. Right now, Azure Mystic has been sealed for countless years, and is simply too weak. The people here are the rulers of Azure Mystic. Qin Wentian is the Heaven Empyrean of Azure Mystic. Seems like we have no other choice. Someone spoke. They were somewhat doubtful if these people before them were qualified to inherit their wills. But since these people were already the rulers of Azure Mystic, they could only choose them. The supreme ancient immortal realms have always had Tao elements since ancient times, choosing the most outstanding characters to accept their Tao elements. It has been like this for generations, tempering the strongest experts. I wonder if they still exist now. Now we will each choose our own inheritors and accept their inheritance. Isn't this similar to the Tao elements of the supreme ancient immortal realms? I'm a little worried, but even so, we have to give it a try. You guys can release your astral souls and display your strength. Let us see whose will you guys are more suitable to accept. The Futian battle god stared at the crowd as he spoke. Qin Wentian brought quite a lot of people with him, but the number of heavenly deity wills remaining weren't that many. What to do next would be up to the heavenly deities themselves. Everyone was nervous, but also filled with anticipation. They released their astral souls and bloodlines, doing their best to display their abilities. Shadow of the Futian battle god could be seen on the gigantic body of the Futian battle god. This was an extremely imposing character, akin to a war god. At this moment, his eyes turned to the direction of the Battle Saint tribe as he spoke. You guys are from the same tribe, the Battle Saint tribe from the supreme ancient immortal realms. Senior knows of my clan? An expert from the Battle Saint tribe had an agitated look on his face. Right now, he already knew that this man before him was a character from the ancient era, a heavenly deity from ancient Azure Mystic. They actually knew that they were from the supreme ancient Battle Saint tribe. This meant that this heavenly deity might have seen the Battle Saint tribe when they were at their peak before. I know of them, an extremely ancient existence. The Battle Saint tribe has the title of victorious against the heavens, an extremely powerful tribe from the supreme ancient immortal realms. Is Mo Luo still alive now? The Futian battle god asked. Senior, my tribe has long ceased to exist. Right now we are struggling at death's door, hiding in Azure Mystic. An expert from the Battle Saint tribe had a sorrowful look on his face. Although they had cultivated for many years, and were already at the level of old monsters, when they personally heard someone talking about the glory of their tribe during the ancient era, they couldn't help but feel a sense of sorrow in their hearts. So it turned out that the ancient records that were passed down through the generations didn't lie to them. They were truly a powerful tribe from the supreme ancient immortal realms that had declined until now. So this is the case. In that case, I Futian am proficient in battle. Your Battle Saint tribe will inherit my will then. The Futian battle god spoke. He would choose one person from the Battle Saint tribe to inherit his will, and at the same time, he would also know about the cultivation of the other tribesmen. The experts from the Battle Saint tribe all had agitated looks on their faces. Initially, they wanted to speak, but they suddenly thought of something. They glanced at Qin Wentian only to see Qin Wentian speaking. Senior, it wasn't easy for the Battle Saint tribe to survive for so many generations. Right now, I'm the Saint Lord of this generation of the Battle Saint tribe. I received a request from the Saint Lord of the previous generation, and now, the Battle Saint tribe is willing to inherit Senior's will. This junior is filled with endless gratitude. Upon hearing Qin Wentian's words, The people from the Battle Saint tribe no longer hesitated. All of them bowed to the Futian battle god. Many thanks to Senior. Another supremely powerful heavenly deity turned his gaze onto Jun Mingchen. He then spoke. An innate divine body. You have a world divine body and my cultivation base is the same as yours. Why don't you inherit my will? After that person spoke, he directly flew towards Jun Mingchen. The heavenly deities stared at his actions and laughed. We all know this is suitable for you and we won't snatch it from you. Who would have thought that there are still a few good seedlings among us? Jun Mingchen clenched his fists tightly as excitement flashed in his eyes. Junior is willing. MHM, you are stronger than I expected. A female heavenly deity smiled. Her shadow was clad in a fiery red robe, and was incomparably beautiful. Her eyes gleamed with a crimson light, exuding a demonic charm. She stared at Bai Qing. Little lass, I'm the blood-refining queen. Are you willing to inherit my will? Bai Qing's beautiful eyes flashed. She could also obtain the inheritance of a heavenly deity? She turned her gaze to Qin Wentian. She wanted to seek Qin Wentian's opinion. This silly little lass. Qin Wentian was speechless when he saw Bai Qing's gaze. He then spoke. Many thanks, Senior. This little lass is my younger sister. Junior can't thank Senior enough for taking care of her. The blood-refining queen calmly glanced at Qin Wentian, feeling somewhat unhappy. She wanted to accept a successor, but this little lass actually looked at Qin Wentian. How could she lose face? Little lass, Bai Qing, quickly pay your respects to master. Qin Wentian spoke. Bai Qing naturally obeyed Qin Wentian's words. She stared at the blood-refining queen and bowed. Disciple Bai Qing pays her respects to master. Are you willing to cultivate with me and become my disciple? An old woman stared at Qing as she spoke. Qing beautiful eyes turned to the old woman. Before this, she could feel the gaze of the old woman staring at her. She didn't expect that the old woman would actually choose her. She then turned to GD who was beside her and spoke. Senior, this is my master GD. She is the one who guides me in cultivation. If I want to follow Senior, I would need her permission first. Not bad. The old woman nodded with a satisfied look on her face. Facing the temptation of accepting a heavenly deity as a disciple, Bai Qing still wanted to ask for her master's permission. Her temperament was extremely rare, and she naturally didn't want to accept an ungrateful disciple. Qing, your current strength isn't weaker than mine and your talent is also higher than mine. There's no longer anything I can teach you. Now that there's a senior who is willing to accept you as a disciple, this is truly an honor. Quickly pay your respects to your new master. GD was very open-minded. Master. Qing's beautiful eyes turned to GD. She could sense a faint sense of disappointment from GD. Disciple will eventually surpass master. This is the Tao of a master. Seeing that you two were once master and disciple, in the future, you can follow me in cultivation as well. That heavenly deity stared at GD as he spoke. GD started. After that, a look of excitement appeared on her face. Many thanks, Senior. Qing thanks, Senior. Qing also smiled happily. This was the best reply. This is the Void Sky Divine Lord. Work hard. The Skybreak heavenly deity spoke to Qing, with a heavy expression on his face. Clearly, this old woman had an extraordinary status and was a supreme character at the peak. Junior thanks Senior Divine Lord. Qin Wentian bowed. Why are you the one thanking me? The old woman stared at Qin Wentian. Why was he everywhere? Senior, this is my wife. Qin Wentian smiled awkwardly. The old woman cast a deep glance at him. Brat, you got lucky. Qin Wentian's expression grew even more awkward, but he was happy in his heart. Leave these devil cultivators to me. A terrifying devil path heavenly deity exuded an imposing aura. Qin Wentian has been waiting for him to speak, because the aura of this figure was too outstanding. With a single glance, one could tell that he was a devil cultivator. He hoped that the myriad devil islands would be able to obtain his inheritance, and now, he really did choose the devil cultivators of the myriad devil islands. The peak stage devil emperors on the Devil Mountain all had different specialties. It was only normal for this devil path heavenly deity to want to accept all of them as his disciples. The devil cultivators of the myriad devil paths were naturally happy to see him. They also felt emotional in their hearts. Following a devil lord like Qin Wentian was truly different. You are a heaven-devouring beast? A white-robed heavenly deity stared at little rascal. His eyes were terrifying, containing the light of a wheel that could devour everything. Senior, I met this little fellow by chance. It said that he is from the royal bloodline of heaven-devouring beasts. Qin Wentian spoke. He is indeed a pure-blooded descendant of the supreme ancient immortal realms. Follow me. That white-robed heavenly deity spoke. Aren't you powerful? Little rascal's immature voice rang out, causing the white-robed heavenly deity to start. After that, he started laughing uproariously. The other heavenly deities all laughed as well. Their wills were able to endure for countless years. Weren't they powerful? Wentian, what are they laughing at? Little rascal stared at Qin Wentian with an adorable look. Qin Wentian was so angry that he directly rapped little rascal's head, causing a look of grievance to appear on little rascal's face. Acting cute is shameless. Qin Wentian was speechless. He glanced at that heavenly deity and spoke awkwardly. This little fellow is still young and doesn't understand things. Senior, please don't blame him. I feel that he is quite interesting and can be taught well. A look of interest appeared on the white-robed heavenly deity's face, causing little rascal to shiver. Why did he feel that there was a conspiracy? People of your race can inherit my will. Also that vermilion bird over there. A female heavenly deity glanced at the southern phoenix matriarch and the ancient phoenix beside her. This female heavenly deity had a pair of terrifying pure-blooded phoenix wings and was extremely extraordinary. The southern phoenix matriarch and the others naturally felt extremely happy in their hearts. Junior, thanks senior. The voice of the southern phoenix matriarch was gentle and her posture was beautiful. She didn't lose the dignified air of an empress. Purgatory started. She didn't expect that this female heavenly deity would be able to see through her with a single glance. She stared at Qin Wentian who was beside her. The other heavenly deities were all speechless. Seems like Qin Wentian's position in the hearts of these people was truly transcendent. What sort of characters were they? They were all heavenly deities. When they wanted to accept a successor, these fellows actually didn't accept it, and were staring at Qin Wentian instead. They were simply speechless. Qin Wentian felt increasingly awkward when he sensed the gazes of the heavenly deities. He was also speechless. Why were they all looking at him? Were they stupid? Didn't they know what kind of opportunity this was? Chapter 1729. However, Qin Wentian discovered one point. These heavenly deities were clearly more enthusiastic towards Jun Mingchen, Little Rascal, and the other friends around him. The Dark North Immortal Emperor, Evergreen Immortal Emperor, and the others who were their seniors, didn't show any interest in them. Many people could tell this point, and those seniors could only sigh in their hearts. The new waves of the river would always surpass the old. The judgment of these heavenly deities was truly sharp. They could tell with a single glance that their talent was inferior to these juniors. Naturally, even if they didn't receive much attention, these heavenly deities would still promise to guide them. For example, the Futian battle god, he could choose one person from the Battle Saint tribe to inherit his will, but he could also guide the other experts from the Battle Saint tribe in their cultivation. There was no conflict between the two. It was as though they wanted to take care of everyone. Or maybe they wanted to nurture more hope for Azure Mystic. Ultimately, no one was left out except for Qin Wentian. What about you? Why didn't you release your astral souls? A heavenly deity noticed Qin Wentian. He was the last person who wasn't chosen because he was the main character of the prophecy. The heavenly deities naturally paid the most attention to him. It was just that after everyone was arranged, someone finally asked him about it. Qin Wentian nodded lightly. He released his incomparably resplendent astral souls. For a period of time, their radiance illuminated the entire space, incomparably dazzling. The body of the devil god, the spatial gate, the supreme sword formation, the thousand-armed Buddha, the illusionary eyes, the god of light, and the ancient tree of life. The 7 astral souls all had the same luster, and were incomparably resplendent, originating from the 8th heavenly layer. When he released his astral souls, this entire space fell into a momentary silence. All the heavenly deities stared at him, feeling uneasy in their hearts. Such astral souls were extremely rare in this world. At the very least, although they were heavenly deities and had roamed the world for countless years, they had never seen such a terrifying astral soul before. The law attributes of this astral soul far surpassed those on the same level as him. If he could form a world heart and comprehend a heaven heart mandate, he would definitely be stronger than those on the same level as him. If he could become a heavenly deity, he would be able to suppress all other deities. The return of the undying, the reappearance of Azure Mystic, the 33 heavens will be thrown into chaos. The hearts of everyone involuntarily thought of that ancient voice. At this moment, that voice rang out in their minds, piercing through time and space. Was this the choice of not dying? How did he do it? Everyone, who will be the one to guide him? The Skybreak heavenly deity asked. Since he is the person he chose, the main character of the prophecy, there's no need for us to guide him. Skybreak heavenly deity, since you are the one who brought him here, why don't your will follow him? If we have time, we can guide him as well. The Futian battle god spoke. The eyes of the various heavenly deities flashed. In truth, many of them wanted to guide Qin Wentian. Such a good seedling, who wouldn't want to inherit their will? But since he was the person in the prophecy, he could already be considered an undying successor. In that case, no one would be able to snatch him away. Futian battle god wanted everyone to guide him while also taking care of the Skybreak heavenly deity. Qin Wentian, what do you think? Futian battle god asked Qin Wentian. I'll follow your arrangements, seniors, said Qin Wentian. All right then. Skybreak heavenly deity, do you have any objections? The Futian battle god spoke again. All right. The Skybreak heavenly deity nodded. He naturally wouldn't have any objections. Since the undying successor was handed over to him, he would naturally do his best. Out of everyone here, other than him who has comprehended source origins, the others are still stuck at the immortal emperor realm. Why don't all of you give them a lecture on the Tao first before allowing them to enter some secret realms to temper themselves, allowing them to break through as soon as possible? The Futian battle god spoke. However, in order to prevent their cultivation bases from becoming unstable, don't interfere when they are in the process of comprehending the source origins. Ultimately, they still have to depend on themselves to comprehend the source origins. It wouldn't be good to forcefully impart the knowledge to them instead. All of you are heavenly deities. I believe you all have your own ways of guiding your juniors. There's no need for me to say anything more. Don't be too eager for instant benefits. They naturally understood the meaning behind the Futian battle god's words. The last sentence was the main point. He was worried that they would take shortcuts in order to speed up the growth of these people. Right. Now that the people from the supreme ancient immortal realms have arrived, they would still need some time before they can find this floating city. Let's do our best during these few days. The Skybreak heavenly deity spoke. Sure. Today we will give a lecture on the Tao before this divine elephant. Let's hope that the Heaven Lord can bear witness to this moment and protect the revival of our Azure Mystic. The Futian battle god spoke. All the heavenly deities nodded as numerous illusory figures sat down cross-legged. Qin Wentian and the others also sat down. Futian, you can go first. A heavenly deity spoke. Futian nodded. He stared at Qin Wentian. You should have told them how to break through to the immortal emperor realm, right? Qin Wentian nodded. Close your eyes and sense it. The Futian battle god spoke. Everyone closed their eyes. Enter a meditative state. Sense the air around you, the wind, everything around you. The Futian battle god slowly spoke. Everyone did as he said and quietly sensed their surroundings. They naturally knew how to meditate. After they were born, the first step they took on the martial path was to meditate, to sense astral energy and form an innate connection with their constellations. It's just that right now, their perception was even stronger than before. All the auras in their surroundings were extremely clear to them. Everything you guys are sensing now are all source origins. The Futian battle god slowly spoke, causing the hearts of everyone to tremble. Everything they could sense every day were all source origins? Source origins are the essence of the laws. A single thought is law, my will is the will of the heavens. In truth, it's a perfect fusion between our energy and the energy of the heavens and earth. Source origins are everywhere and have a myriad of forms. It can be gentle, it can also be violent. If you comprehend it, you can freely transform it. A gentle wind can transform into a sharp blade. A gentle rain can penetrate divine weapons. Only by comprehending source origins can you be considered to be in harmony with the heavens and earth, transcending mortality and entering sainthood, transcending the mortal world. My will is the will of the heavens. What sort of character was the Futian battle god? His comprehension was naturally much stronger compared to Qin Wentian. His lecture on the Tao was also much more thorough. A few casual words from him could cause the hearts of everyone to tremble, as though they were enlightened. For characters like the Southern Phoenix matriarch who had been stuck at the peak stage of the immortal emperor realm for many years, they felt that the distance between them and the immortal emperor realm was much closer. Just like what these heavenly deities said before. The reason why their cultivation bases were low wasn't because their talent was lacking. Rather, it was because they basically had no way to come into contact with higher realms. They didn't even know what the higher realms were like. And had never seen them before. How could they break through? Unless they had a great stroke of good fortune. After the Futian battle god finished his Tao lecture, the other heavenly deities all spoke one after another, sharing their own insights. Everyone's lecture was different. These lofty heavenly deities had never patiently lectured to others before, let alone lecturing on the Tao at the immortal emperor level. To them, this lecture was simply too low level. After the heavenly deities finished their lectures, many people sank into a wondrous state. When one heavenly deity lectured about the Tao, you might not be able to enter that state. But what about 2 or 3? There would definitely be one heavenly deity lecturing about the Tao that would stir the hearts of these immortal emperors. It would be difficult for them not to gain insights even if they didn't want to. Such a condition was something that even the heavenly deity race didn't have. One could ask, with so many heavenly deities sitting together and lecturing about the Tao for immortal emperors, where else in the world would receive such treatment? This was definitely an unrivaled condition. Staring at the immortal emperors entering a state of enlightenment, the heavenly deities smiled. At the very least, their comprehension abilities weren't too bad. After lecturing about the Tao, they would send these immortal emperors into secret realms to properly comprehend the insights they gained. They didn't believe that these immortal emperors wouldn't be able to break through to the Empyrean realm. Stepping into the Empyrean realm was only the first step. If they couldn't even complete this step, these heavenly deities wouldn't have the face to meet others. Their goal was to allow peak-stage immortal emperors to step into the Empyrean realm and comprehend all the law origins they cultivated. As for those with weaker cultivation bases, they would first become peak-stage immortal emperors before stepping into the Empyrean realm. The Futian battle god then glanced at Qin Wentian as he asked, "How much do you know about the World Overlord realm?" Junior doesn't know much. I only know that in order to become a World Overlord, one has to comprehend a world heart and control a heaven heart mandate. Qin Wentian replied. What is a world heart and what is a heaven heart mandate? The Futian battle god asked. I heard that one has to fuse their law origins together to form a brand new type of energy before a heaven heart mandate can be born. Qin Wentian truly didn't know much about the World Overlord realm. This is merely the most basic concept. If this is the case, how can those who only cultivate a single law origin break through? The Futian battle god asked. Qin Wentian started, but he didn't think too much about it. However, although it was very rare for people who only comprehended a single law origin, they did exist. Could it be that they couldn't break through to the World Overlord realm? Also, what is a world heart and a heaven heart mandate exactly? What is the relationship between them? In that case, if one wants to break through to the World Overlord realm, Should one first comprehend a world heart or a heaven heart mandate? The Futian battle god asked one question after another. Although Qin Wentian knew about the world overlord realm, and had sensed the power of heaven heart mandates before, he discovered that he was still very ignorant. If he didn't even understand these questions clearly, how could he talk about breaking through to the world overlord realm? Actually, there's another way of saying world hearts. It is the heart domain of world overlords. After you step into the world overlord realm, you would have a world heart and a heaven heart mandate. If it has something to do with illusions, with a single thought, you would be able to transform a vast domain into a world of your own. You can also create an illusory world and everyone inside would live in your illusions. In fact, they wouldn't even know about it unless their cultivation base is on the same level as yours, and they could sense the existence of your world heart. The Futian battle god spoke. Qin Wentian instantly thought of the heavenly talisman realm. World heart and heaven heart mandate are mutually complementary. If humans are numbers, world hearts are the roots while heaven heart mandates are the branches and leaves. World hearts are the domain of one's heart, and heaven heart mandates are the manifestation of one's attacks. The Futian battle god patiently explained to Qin Wentian. He then continued. Also, world hearts and heaven heart mandates don't have a difference in order of priority. To the vast majority of people, they would first achieve what you said, fusing their source origins into the energy of their heart, giving birth to a heaven heart mandate. After that, a world heart would be born. However, there are also special existences who are born from the heart. They would first ascertain what kind of energy they want to cultivate, and what kind of world heart they want to create. After that, they would comprehend a heaven heart mandate according to what they want. Chapter 1730. Qin Wentian meticulously tried to comprehend the Futian battle god's words. There were two methods. The first method was to fuse the source origins together and give birth to a heaven heart mandate, giving birth to a world heart and becoming a world overlord. The second method was to first think about what kind of heaven heart mandate you want to comprehend, and use your source origins to create it. It's just that from the feeling he got, the difficulty of the second method was clearly much higher. Before comprehending the heaven heart mandate, it was truly too difficult to do. The first method was to passively comprehend it, progressing step by step, using the heaven heart mandate to enter the Tao. As for the second method, it was to actively comprehend it, achieving the first step of comprehending the Tao, forming the world heart and forming the Tao. Senior compared the world heart to a root and the heaven heart mandate to a tree leaf. However, shouldn't one first take root and regrow the branches and leaves? This comparison seems a little inappropriate. Qin Wentian asked. He believed that the Futian battle god wouldn't make such a mistake. There might be a deeper meaning to this. Then you have to have roots first. Do the roots of a tree grow out of thin air? The Futian battle god laughed. You are right. A tree naturally grows from its roots to its branches and leaves. Hence, if you can truly find the roots first and comprehend a world heart first, it's only logical that a heaven heart mandate would be born. Let me ask you, if you take the initiative to create a world heart according to your will, would there be a possibility of it being stronger compared to passively comprehending a world heart? Qin Wentian nodded. After that, he shook his head, as though he didn't really understand. The world overlord realm was too profound and many people would never be able to step into it. How could it be so easy to comprehend the Tao? Just relying on the Tao lectures of heavenly deities was far from enough. It's normal if you don't understand. Do you know that for two different source origins, for example the spatial energy and sword energy you comprehended, if they completely fuse together and a heaven heart mandate is born, do you think that the heaven heart mandate would be a fixed one? Different people have different comprehensions and different attributes. The heaven heart mandate would be different, right? Naturally, the disparity shouldn't be too great. Qin Wentian spoke. That's where you are wrong. The disparity might be extremely great, because what will be born is a brand new energy. Although we can see the shadows of the two previous source origins, this brand new energy will be completely different. Even if it's two completely identical source origins, The heaven heart mandates born from different people's comprehension might be as different as the heavens and the earth. The Futian battle god continued. However, when two source origins are fused, there are many known heaven heart mandates. Many people would choose to walk this path based on the experiences of their predecessors. It might be smoother, but there are also those who might not be able to grasp the essentials. However, there are some creators who can topple all the known heaven heart mandates created by their predecessors, using their own extraordinary imagination to comprehend the world heart. This is something that belongs to creators. In addition, since you want to attempt to create your own world heart, it's impossible for you to be too weak. In that case, you should understand, right? Qin Wentian pondered for a moment and then nodded. The former was more creative, but more difficult. On the other hand, for those who only comprehended a single source origin, they would be able to use their extraordinary comprehension abilities to first create a world heart before comprehending a heaven heart mandate. However, this requires a unique source origin. If one only comprehended a single law origin, they would forever be stuck at the immortal emperor realm, unable to advance any further. This is merely the difference in comprehending heaven heart mandates. Because at the world overlord realm, the disparity in strength might be very great. For example, because of the difference in the attributes of the source origins. For example, someone like you is clearly stronger than countless others, standing at the peak. There are also some people who can comprehend multiple heaven heart mandates. These existences with extraordinary talent can far surpass other world overlords, causing the disparity in strength between world overlords. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness. This point was even easier to understand. At the world overlord realm, when two source origins fused together, they would be able to create a brand new type of energy. Right now he had 7 source origins. If he stepped into the world overlord realm, he would have 8 source origins. If he fused them together, how many different heaven heart mandates would he be able to create? This was simply unimaginable. Hence, the disparity in the world overlord realm might truly be as great as the heavens and the earth. 4 different source origins. One can fuse too many types of heaven heart mandates. In that case, is it still so difficult to step into the world overlord realm? Qin Wentian mumbled. To the vast majority of people, this is naturally the case. Also, don't bite off more than you can chew, thinking that it's so easy to comprehend a heaven heart mandate. Being able to comprehend a single heaven heart mandate and step into the world overlord realm would already mean that your talent is 1 in a trillion. Regardless of ancient azure mystic or the supreme ancient immortal realms, a world overlord can already be considered a hegemonic character of a region. How many stellar martial cultivators would one be able to produce such a character? The Futian battle god spoke. Qin Wentian nodded. That was indeed the case. The lifelong realm lord was someone who controlled an entire world, and countless territories were under his control. He was truly a major character. Is the comprehension of heaven heart mandates really so difficult? Qin Wentian sighed. It's very difficult. Comprehending a single heaven heart mandate would allow one to become a world overlord. Next, one would need many years of accumulation before they would be able to comprehend the second and third heaven heart mandates. The Futian battle god nodded. In that case, is the division of the world overlord realm related to how many heaven heart mandates one has comprehended? Qin Wentian asked. The world overlord realm should also be divided into different levels, just like the emperor realm, right? You are thinking too much. The Futian battle god laughed. How can it be so simple? The disparity in the world overlord realm is so great that it would surpass your imagination. The world overlord realm isn't divided into different levels, but the vast majority of world overlords are the weakest. The strength of a world overlord is determined by the strength of their heaven heart mandates. For those who have comprehended a heaven heart mandate, no matter how many heaven heart mandates you comprehended, you might still be a weaker world overlord. For example, if there's someone who can fuse 3 source origins together and comprehend an extremely powerful heaven heart mandate, they would be able to insta-kill ordinary heaven heart mandates born from the fusion of 2 source origins. No matter how many heaven heart mandates you comprehended, I only need one because my Heaven Heart mandate is strong enough to suppress all of you. That's 3 Heaven Heart mandates. There's also an even more terrifying existence. A rarely seen world overlord who can fuse 4 source origins together, giving birth to an even stronger Heaven Heart mandate. How can you contend against them? Qin Wentian seriously listened. Seems like the path before him was still very long. The path he had to walk on was still very long. One had to comprehend a Heaven Heart mandate before they could become a world overlord. It was extremely difficult to comprehend a single Heaven Heart mandate, and only by comprehending multiple types of Heaven Heart mandates would one be able to stand stably in the world overlord realm. Even if one could be considered a slightly more powerful world overlord, it was still insufficient. There were even stronger existences that could fuse multiple source origins together. By doing so, he could also understand that for characters at the same world overlord realm, the disparity between them might be so great that it would cause one to feel despair. Are there also those who can fuse 5 or 6 source origins together to form a Heaven Heart mandate? Qin Wentian mumbled. The Futian battle god laughed. He stared at Qin Wentian. If you can reach that level, you should be able to verify your Tao and become a heavenly deity. Heavenly deity. Qin Wentian's heart trembled. He stared at the Futian battle god as well as the other heavenly deities before him, feeling extremely uneasy in his heart. Before this, he had no way to sense how strong heavenly deities were exactly. Now that he heard the Futian battle god's words, only then did he realize what sort of monster-level existences these people before him were. Each level of the world overlord realm was extremely difficult to ascend to the heavens, but these people had all accomplished it before. In addition, they even surpassed the heavenly deity realm and became a heavenly deity. About the same? Qin Wentian felt a little strange when he heard the Futian battle god's words. Yes, different people have different requirements to verify their Tao and become a heavenly deity. It's still too early to talk about this now. Don't bite off more than you can chew. The path is still long. Let's see if you can step into the world overlord realm within 100 years first. The Futian battle god casually spoke. Qin Wentian bitterly smiled. 100 years, how long? You are really? The Futian battle god speechlessly stared at Qin Wentian. Ascending to the world overlord realm within 100 years, how long was that? Did Qin Wentian know how terrifying this speed was? It was only because they were present that he dared to say this. If not, let alone 100 years, even thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, or even hundreds of thousands of years, wouldn't it be impossible? Do you know that there might not even be one world overlord out of 10 billion people? How terrifying is this number? If you can comprehend a single Heaven Heart mandate within 100 years, I would already be very satisfied. The Futian battle god speechlessly spoke. Qin Wentian smiled. Comprehending a Heaven Heart mandate was truly so difficult. He naturally understood how rare world overlords were. However, he was in too much of a hurry to increase his strength. This was especially so given the current situation in Azure Mystic. Empyreans were no longer able to intimidate the experts from the outside world. Let's not talk too far. Let me continue to explain some of the knowledge of world overlords to you. For example, what are the countless Heaven Heart mandates that we know of and what origin source energies are they formed from? The Futian battle god pulled the topic back. When he was speaking about the Tao, the other heavenly deities only listened at the side and didn't say anything. Every heavenly deity had their own unique comprehensions. The Futian battle god was currently using words to convey his comprehensions to Qin Wentian. After the Futian battle god, the various heavenly deities all respectively spoke about the Tao, sharing their own comprehensions, their understanding of the world overlord realm, as well as the various Heaven Heart mandates. This lecture lasted for a very long time and Qin Wentian was completely immersed in the vast knowledge of the heavenly deities. He would occasionally ask questions and his gains were extremely great. He felt that another door had opened in his mind, the door to the world overlord realm. He was filled with anticipation towards the future, especially after he heard the heavenly deities talking about the various powerful Heaven Heart mandates. His thirst grew even stronger. He wanted to create a Heaven Heart mandate that belonged to him. one that could be comparable to those of his predecessors. The various immortal emperors were also immersed in their own comprehensions. The good fortune this time around had extraordinary significance to them. As for ancient Azure Mystic, more and more experts descended. The army from the supreme ancient immortal realms arrived one after another, and was advancing unceasingly. The experts from the heavenly deity race brought their armies down to ancient Azure Mystic, and discovered many buried treasures. As for the zombies that obstructed their advance, they were all destroyed by them. Today, among the immortal emperors that Qin Wentian brought here, one of them broke through, breaking through the restrictions of the immortal emperor realm. Even before he entered the secret realm, he had already stepped into the Empyrean realm. The first person to break through was actually the Southern Phoenix matriarch, Nanfeng Yaoyue. Chapter 1731. Qin Wentian and the others were immersed in the Tao lecture. The days passed by very quickly. Today, the Tao lectures ended, and they were preparing to bring their inheritors to different secret realms for cultivation. This floating city contained the wills of the heavenly deities of Azure Mystic. They naturally knew where the divine depositories and secret realms were located. Although many of them were destroyed, there were still some that remained. Skybreak Heavenly Deity, I wish to bring him to the secret realm of the myriad laws heavenly deity to cultivate. What do you think? The Futian battle god asked the Skybreak Heavenly Deity for his opinion. After all, they had already agreed that Qin Wentian would inherit the Skybreak Heavenly Deity's will. But in truth, Qin Wentian would still be taught by them together, providing the best cultivation environment. Before this, the Tao lectures were conducted by the heavenly deities of ancient Azure Mystic. The Skybreak Heavenly Deity understood this. He brought Qin Wentian here because he hoped that Qin Wentian would be able to cause chaos in the 33 heavenly layers one day. He had his own selfish motives. He wanted revenge. Right now, Qin Wentian had obtained the inheritance of the heavenly deities of ancient Azure Mystic, and was the main character of the prophecy. His life path was already destined. Even if he didn't antagonize the heavenly deity race, would the heavenly deity race who once destroyed ancient Azure Mystic spare him? In the future, there would surely be a storm of blood. After obtaining such an inheritance, one would naturally have to bear the danger and responsibility. For this point, Qin Wentian himself should understand. The danger came from the heavenly deity race, but his responsibility was to protect and even revive Azure Mystic. In the past, I heard that the myriad laws heavenly deity had the deepest comprehension of laws among all the heavenly deities. He created the world of 10,000 laws, from the weakest to the strongest, containing many heaven heart mandates, truly all-encompassing. His disciples could be found all over the world, and countless Empyreans wanted him to take them in. The myriad laws heavenly deity was also the heavenly deity, who nurtured the most world overlords out of all the heavenly deities. The Skybreak Heavenly Deity spoke. Right now, Qin Wentian has such a good fortune. It couldn't be any better. Has the myriad laws heavenly god's myriad laws world been preserved? The world of 10,000 laws is the life's work of the heavenly deity of 10,000 laws. Because of the existence of the world of 10,000 laws, the heavenly deity of 10,000 laws has spread all over the world. Unfortunately, such a character was ultimately unable to resist the fate of destruction. Not even a strand of his will was left behind, only protecting his world of 10,000 laws. The Futian battle god sighed. The 10,000 laws heavenly deity was a heavenly deity that even he was extremely respectful of back then. In terms of nurturing disciples, the 10,000 laws heavenly deity was the number one in ancient Azure Mystic. There was no one who could surpass him. What a pity! If the myriad law heavenly deity was here, he would be the most suitable person to guide Qin Wentian. The Skybreak heavenly deity sighed. Alright, since this is the case, let's move out. The people from the Battle Saint tribe will follow me first. After we send Qin Wentian into the secret realm of the world of 10,000 laws, I will bring you all to the other secret realms. The Futian battle god spoke. The various heavenly deities were preparing to bring their disciples away. Qin Wentian glanced at Qing, cultivate well. Qing, replied with a clear voice. Yu Huang, by Qing Little Rascal, Purgatory Mingchen. Everyone, all of you have to work hard. Qin Wentian glanced at everyone. Also Father, Dark North Immortal Emperor, Senior Brother Wuya. Yaiwa has already broken through. You guys have to work hard. Chongqing the Great and the others smiled awkwardly as they glanced at Namfeng Yaoyue. Namfeng Yaoyue's demeanor was more outstanding compared to before. She had a smile on her face as she stared at Qin Wentian. We will naturally understand. As for you, we are all waiting for you to break through to the World Overlord realm. The Heaven Empyrean Qing Xian cannot be too weak. Right. Qin Wentian smiled. After that, everyone split up and were brought to different directions by the heavenly deities. The Futian battle god allowed Qin Wentian and the people from the Battle Saint tribe to stand on his headless body. After that, he flew towards a certain direction, causing the earth to tremble as he traversed 1,000 miles with a single step. Qin Wentian stood on the shoulder of the Futian battle god's gigantic body. He stared at everyone as a deep smile flashed in his eyes. Everyone had their own path of cultivation. This was the best ending. He hoped that everyone would be able to grow up and fight alongside him. The Myriad Law Heavenly Deity had his own Heavenly Deity Mountain. This Heavenly Deity Mountain stood tall in the sky, piercing through the clouds. From below, one could only see misty clouds. However, Qin Wentian could see that this Heavenly Deity Mountain had already suffered from intense damage. Everything around it was destroyed, causing it to look extremely desolate. This place is the Heavenly Deity Mountain where the Myriad Law Heavenly Deity cultivated. Everything has been destroyed, and this place was once extremely prosperous. At the foot of the Heavenly Deity Mountain, there would be countless Empyreans kneeling there every day, wanting to enter the Heavenly Deity Mountain to cultivate. In fact, there were even many world overlords who waited outside for thousands or tens of thousands of years just to use their obsession to move the heavenly deities. But now, the Heavenly Deity Mountain has become like this. Seems like the Myriad Law Heavenly Deity was an extremely respected heavenly deity when he was alive. Qin Wentian silently mused. When he stared at the Heavenly Deity Mountain, his gaze was filled with reverence. Landing on the ground, he bowed to the Heavenly Deity Mountain. Today, I'm fortunate to be able to borrow Senior's world of Myriad Law to cultivate. It's truly an honor. I can only sigh that I'm not fated to meet Senior's magnificence. Haha, if you have the heart, after Azure Mystic is revived in the future, spread the names of those ancient heavenly deities and recount the things they did when they were alive, engraving them into the history of Azure Mystic. Although there's no meaning to it, some existences shouldn't be nameless and buried in history. The Futian battle god spoke. Qin Wentian nodded. Let's go. The Futian battle god spoke. He brought Qin Wentian and the others and continued on their way. They ascended the Heavenly Deity Mountain and came to a cosmos palace on the mountain. After that, they stepped into it. There was another universe inside, and resplendent runic light could be seen, resembling the runes of the Great Tao. At the end of the palace, there were countless circular runes shining with resplendent light. They seemed to be born from the Great Tao of heaven and earth, resembling an entrance. This is the famous world of Myriad Law of ancient Azure Mystic. Countless Empyreans and world overlords are willing to pay any price just to be able to enter this place and cultivate. This place is extremely important for you to comprehend Heaven Heart mandates and step into the world overlord realm. You have to do your best to comprehend it. The Futian battle god spoke. That's only natural. Qin Wentian nodded. Go on, Skybreak Heavenly Deity. I'll leave this to you. The Futian battle god spoke to the will of the Skybreak Heavenly Deity beside him. The Skybreak Heavenly Deity nodded. After that, his will entered Qin Wentian's sea of consciousness, only to see Qin Wentian stepping forward, directly entering the runic light. In an instant, Qin Wentian's body vanished from sight. At the instant Qin Wentian entered, he only felt himself shuttling through space and time. After that, his body slammed into the ground. Where is this place? Qin Wentian stared at the surroundings. The scene before him seemed to have completely changed. It was no longer the gloomy sun. Instead, it was a sunny day. At this moment, Qin Wentian's eyes suddenly narrowed. He stared up in the air. There seemed to be a stone monument there with 2 words engraved on it: void fragmentation. Empyrean? At this moment, a voice rang out. A figure actually walked out from the void fragmentation stone monument. This figure was like a monument spirit, staring at Qin Wentian with disdain. You are here to comprehend the world of myriad law. Seems like you are going to suffer a lot. That monument spirit laughed. Qin Wentian didn't understand. Senior, can I seek guidance from you? Guidance. The monument spirit laughed. Next, just enjoy yourself. As the sound of its voice faded, a fearsome might enveloped the entire space. In just an instant, Qin Wentian only felt that everything had changed. The world was no longer as beautiful as before. Instead, it was filled with incomparable pressure. Qin Wentian immediately activated his defensive force. A powerful Dharma body of Buddha sect appeared, ready to deal with any unexpected situation. That monument spirit sneered and uttered a word: kill. As soon as the word fell, Qin Wentian felt a force that could shatter the void. This force could shatter the entire void of heaven and earth. This was neither a divine ability, nor a secret technique. It was just a pure cultivation realm. With just a thought, it could shatter the void. The Dharma body on his body collapsed and disintegrated in an instant. His body felt like it was enduring an incomparably terrifying shattering attack, and was about to be torn apart. His expression changed drastically, revealing a horrified look. He circulated his undying power, and condensed his strongest defense. At this moment, Qin Wentian felt that the entire void was shattering. There was nowhere for him to hide. No matter where he tried to hide, it would be the same. He could only endure this kind of attack with just a thought from the other party. Arg! A terrifying pain gushed forth as cracks appeared on his body. Upon seeing his struggle, the monument spirit didn't show any mercy. He lifted his fist and directly punched out. Boom! The void shattered. This time around, Qin Wentian no longer had any strength to struggle. This punch only blasted into the void, and was very far away from him. Yet it felt as though it had a corporeal substance. Qin Wentian's expression contorted as he paled. He had no way to block this attack. His consciousness already felt his body being torn apart as intense pain radiated forth. At this instant, he even suspected the intentions of the Futian battle god and the others. What did they mean by this? Did they want to torture him to death? In the next instant, his consciousness crumbled under the might of that attack. He had no way to describe this feeling. That was death, a true feeling of death. He was powerless and wanted to struggle. He thought of many things and many people. What about Qingqing and the others? He still hadn't found his parents and they were still waiting for him. But everything seemed to have ended. And just when Qin Wentian's consciousness was about to dissipate, all of a sudden, he felt his consciousness returning to him. It was as though his physical body had returned as well. His body moved as he opened his eyes, staring at everything in front of him. His body was still there, and so was his consciousness. However, his entire body was drenched in cold sweat. Is this an illusion? Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath. This feeling was too terrifying, a true feeling of death. It was the same as the battle in the Evergreen Kingdom back then. He felt that he was going to die. He bitterly smiled and shook his head. This was too terrifying. The Futian battle god and the Skybreak heavenly deity actually didn't warn him. Is that the attack of a heaven heart mandate? Shattering space, it can directly shatter space. If there really is a world overlord like this, with a single thought from his world heart, he would be able to shatter everyone in the surrounding space. Also, this seems to be a relatively simple heaven heart mandate. Qin Wentian's heart was filled with unease. Listening to a heavenly deity expounding the Tao and experiencing it in reality, the feeling was completely different. The world of 10,000 laws seemed to be a place where he could truly sense heaven heart mandates. Chapter 1732. Void Fragmentation. That space earlier was the Void Fragmentation realm's heavenly heart's will. Qin Wentian was unable to sense exactly how it was formed. The scene in front of him was still the same. There weren't many changes. In the air, There was another stone monument with 2 words engraved on it. However, it wasn't void fragmentation. Void movement. Clearly, this was still a type of heavenly heart's will. It was just that he couldn't understand the true meaning of the 2 words void movement. At this moment, a different figure appeared in the stone monument. It was also the tablet spirit. It glanced at Qin Wentian with a look of disdain on its face, as though it really had its own thoughts. It seemed like it didn't care about Qin Wentian's cultivation base at all. Coming to the world of 10,000 laws at the Empyrean realm, was simply looking for a beating. Trying to comprehend a heavenly heart's will? In that case, the person who comprehended it would know what despair was. Qin Wentian set up his defenses again. With the experience earlier, his defenses were much stronger this time around. He wanted to truly fight against the power of the heavenly heart's will and feel the difference in strength between him and the spirit. However, just as he was prepared, the figure of the tablet spirit suddenly vanished. It vanished into thin air just like that. The space was incomparably quiet. There wasn't a single sound to be heard. However, Qin Wentian didn't let his guard down. His immortal sense enveloped the surrounding space. As long as there was a trace of fluctuation in the space, he would be able to sense it. However, there was nothing. This space was too quiet. That tablet spirit seemed to be disdainful of him and vanished. Could it have returned to the stone monument? His defenses were still there, ready to act at any moment. He waited patiently. After a long time, there was still no movement at all. This caused Qin Wentian to smile bitterly. His energy had vanished and he dispersed his defenses. He couldn't understand what was going on. At the instant his defenses vanished, Qin Wentian suddenly felt an extremely strong sense of danger. It wasn't because of his immortal sense. Rather, it was purely his intuition. Boom! A powerful defense once again enveloped his entire body, but it was already too late. A fist appeared out of nowhere and smashed onto his body ruthlessly. Without any warning, the fist came directly from the void. The figure of the monument spirit appeared right after. Qin Wentian once again experienced the feeling of death. His body exploded and was destroyed. With his last shred of consciousness, he thought that in a battle, if he let his guard down at any moment, he would be courting death. This seemed to be an unforgettable lesson. When Qin Wentian's consciousness returned, it was the same as before. His entire body was drenched in cold sweat. A bitter smile appeared on his face. He died again. In this world of 10,000 laws, how many times would he experience death? Over and over again, it was enough to cause the mind of a person with a weak will to collapse. That kind of feeling was not something that anyone could experience over and over again. Void Walker, walking through the void. Qin Wentian seemed to understand the meaning of the word Voidwalker. This was another type of heaven heart mandate. It was too terrifying. This was no longer the same as using spatial energy to traverse space. If that was the case, immortal senses would be able to sense it. But this Voidwalker heaven heart mandate was untraceable. It could directly enter the void and launch attacks, formless and formless. If one could control this type of heaven heart mandate, they wouldn't have to be afraid of numbers. As long as they were stronger than all of them. Even if they had to face so many experts alone, they would still be able to kill them one by one. Unless there were other heaven heart mandates that could counter the power of the Voidwalker. Before this, Qin Wentian naturally understood from the Tao lectures of the various heavenly deities. Although Voidwalker and Voidwalker were very powerful and seemed unstoppable, there were definitely countless other types of heaven heart mandates that existed. As long as you dared to think about it, they would exist. For some people with heaven-defying comprehension abilities, they would be able to comprehend a path that no one had ever walked before, opening up a heaven heart mandate that was unexcelled in the world. What would it be next? Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the air once more. Although the taste of death would cause one to feel despair, when faced with the various types of heaven heart mandates, an intense desire ignited in his heart. This type of heaven heart mandate was something he wanted to comprehend in the future. He desired to see more powerful heaven heart mandates and understand more of them. He didn't want to create his own heaven heart mandate. Heaven's burial. Qin Wentian stared at another stone monument in the air. The words Heaven's Burial were engraved on it. How tyrannical were the words Heaven's Burial? However, how would the power of Heaven Heart mandates be manifested? Very soon Qin Wentian found out. The monument spirit walked out from the stone monument and glanced at Qin Wentian. His eyes were filled with disdain as always. He lifted his hand and grabbed out in the air. In an instant, a supreme might manifested. Qin Wentian had set up layers of defenses, but at this moment, all of them were useless. The monument spirit didn't even try to break through his defenses. He merely clasped his hands together, executing Heaven's Burial. Qin Wentian once again experienced the feeling of death and was reborn. He experienced it 3 times in a row, and his body was covered in sweat. Heaven's Burial used boundless might to directly bury the heavens and earth, crushing everything in that area. This Heaven Heart mandate was incomparably tyrannical, simply unfathomable. In the process of combat, a world overlord who possessed a Heaven Heart mandate could kill countless people with a single thought. Even an entire area of the world would be destroyed, annihilating millions and millions of lives. This was the deterrence of supremely powerful existences. They controlled the power to look down on everything in the world. With a single thought, they could destroy mountains and rivers, plunging the lives into misery. After dying 3 times in a row, Qin Wentian really wanted to rest for a while to alleviate the suffocating pressure. However, since he entered the world of 10,000 laws, everything seemed to be out of his control. This place was the sacred ground of ancient Azure mystic, when the myriad law heavenly deity was alive. Countless experts wanted to come here, but it was also an extremely terrifying hellish place. If one's strength wasn't enough, they would understand what despair was after they entered. Just like how despair Qin Wentian felt now. He had no time to rest because the monument spirit in the air once again appeared. This time, the name of the Heaven Heart mandate was Heaven Prison. The monument spirit only glanced at him and Qin Wentian fell into a prison, imprisoned within, unable to see the light of day. After that he could only wait for his death. It was a tragic sight to behold. Again and again, Qin Wentian unceasingly experienced the power of the Heaven Heart mandates in the world of 10,000 laws. The Heaven Heart mandates here were extremely vast and profound. There were simply too many of them. Naturally, Qin Wentian felt that he most probably wouldn't be able to comprehend all of them. It was simply too painful. After experiencing death time and time again, no matter how strong one's will was, they would still go crazy. This kind of feeling was something that couldn't be understood unless one personally experienced it. Even though Qin Wentian had boundless anticipation, he still felt that his will was about to collapse. If it wasn't for the fact that he was sufficiently resolute and had an intense desire, he would have long since given up. However, during this process he also saw many wondrous Heaven Heart mandates. Some of them even seemed to have a connection with the source origins he comprehended. He could use them as reference. For example, there was a type of Heaven Heart mandate named Young Flames. This type of Heaven Heart mandate had a very clear energy. It was like the flames of the sun, and it was manifested in the form of light. This was why Qin Wentian guessed that this might be a Heaven Heart mandate that was born from the fusion of the source origins of fire and the source origins of light. In addition, this Heaven Heart mandate had a trace of similarity to the energy he cultivated. His light astral soul was extremely powerful, and when it radiated light, it could incinerate people. As for the Yang Flame's Heaven Heart mandate, it was even more terrifying. It was a true metamorphosis ability. Back then when he was experiencing this Heaven Heart mandate, the sunlight shone over, causing millions of tiny holes to appear on his body. Each beam of light directly penetrated through his body, leaving behind a hole. How much light was there? He didn't know because there was no end to it. He only knew that under the might of Yang Yan's Heaven Heart mandate, his body directly disintegrated into nothingness. This was much more powerful compared to when he was in combat when he used both the astral energy of light and sword energy. Naturally, since his astral soul could have such power, it was already considered extremely powerful. Naturally, this kind of death was still considered better. It was direct and there was no pain. He even experienced an extremely cruel Heaven Heart mandate, causing his body to rot away bit by bit. This feeling was something he absolutely didn't want to experience a second time. After many times, a low-sounding roar rang out from Qin Wentian's throat. He felt that he would soon reach his limits. However, he basically had no other choice in this world of 10,000 laws. Could he continue on like this? Senior. Qin Wentian's will directly communicated with the Skybreak Heavenly Deity. Can you still persist? The Skybreak Heavenly Deity asked. I can't. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Qin Wentian wouldn't seek help from the Skybreak Heavenly Deity. But it was true that he had already reached his limits. Right now, only the Skybreak Heavenly Deity could help him. All right. The Skybreak Heavenly Deity replied. In truth, the fact that Qin Wentian could persist until now, comprehending so many Heaven Heart mandates and dying time and time again, was already very surprising to him. An intense feeling gushed forth. Qin Wentian felt a strange sensation as though his consciousness had returned to his original body. Heaving out a breath of air, Qin Wentian felt a little exhausted. He laid on the ground powerlessly and inclined his head. This place was actually a palace. What's going on? Qin Wentian felt shock in his heart. He glanced to the side. Over there was actually the entrance to the world of 10,000 laws, the place where countless runes flowed. And right now, the place he was lying on was precisely beside the entrance. At this moment, a resplendent light shone from the entrance, resembling an extremely powerful formation. However, the light from the formation was gradually fading away before it finally dimmed. The place you are lying on is the entrance to the world of 10,000 laws. Earlier, you have already entered and are now exiting. The Skybreak Heavenly Deity spoke. I've already entered? Qin Wentian didn't understand. My consciousness has entered, it's just that your body can't sense it. The world of 10,000 laws originally exists in the void. How does this feeling feel? The Skybreak Heavenly Deity's shadow appeared. Too terrifying. Qin Wentian bitterly smiled. Even I'm a little afraid of coming here a second time. However, after truly comprehending the power of these Heaven Heart mandates, in addition to the Tao lectures of seniors, my comprehension grew much deeper. I think I finally know what the power of Heaven Heart mandates is. Only by doing so would you be able to comprehend nothing. I wonder how you should comprehend it. The Skybreak Heavenly Deity nodded. In the future, if you wish to experience it, you can enter the world of 10,000 laws at any time. A strange look appeared on Qin Wentian's face. Even he was a little afraid of entering. Although he knew it was fake, it was still too painful. Chapter 1733. The Skybreak Heavenly Deity smiled when he saw the strange expression on Qin Wentian's face. After seeing so many Heaven Heart mandates, did you gain any inspiration? Have you thought about what Heaven Heart mandate you want to comprehend? Let nature take its course. When the source origins are perfectly fused, a Heaven Heart mandate would naturally appear. I hope I can successfully fuse the source origins together. Qin Wentian spoke. The Skybreak Heavenly Deity froze when he heard Qin Wentian's words. His illusory eyes flashed with a hint of disappointment. He regarded Qin Wentian's talent very highly. However, did Qin Wentian have to be like the vast majority of people and fuse the source origins together, giving birth to a Heaven Heart mandate before forming a World Heart and stepping into the World Overlord realm? The reason why he asked this question was because he hoped that Qin Wentian would reply that he would consider it carefully and search for a World Heart energy that was most suitable for him. After forming a Heart domain, he would then reverse engineer a Heaven Heart mandate. One must know that a World Overlord could only have a single World Heart. However, Heaven Heart mandates could be formed in many forms. The World Heart was the root while the Heaven Heart mandates were the branches and leaves. The Skybreak Heavenly Deity had high hopes for Qin Wentian. He naturally hoped that Qin Wentian would have extraordinary accomplishments, allowing him to comprehend a transcendent World Heart. Hence, after hearing Qin Wentian's words, he felt a little disappointed. Naturally, he wouldn't say anything more and wouldn't interfere with Qin Wentian's cultivation. He was only responsible for guiding Qin Wentian through the great gate of the World Overlord realm. As for how to walk down this path, Qin Wentian could only depend on himself. Only then would his comprehension be the deepest and wouldn't cause his cultivation base to be unstable. Retracting his disappointment, the Skybreak heavenly deity felt a trace of hope. Maybe, given Qin Wentian's powerful astral souls, even if he fused the source origins together, he would still be able to form an extremely powerful Heaven Heart mandate. There are still many secret realms in this world that have yet to be destroyed. I will bring you to roam around the divine depositories. The Skybreak heavenly deity spoke. After that, they left the world of 10,000 laws. Time flew by, especially when one was cultivating. One would realize that time passed very quickly. Unknowingly, several years had passed. In these few years, the cultivators that Qin Wentian brought from Qingxian had made terrifying progress. If this kind of progress was known to the outside world, it would be enough to set off a storm. For many immortal emperors, other than those with a lower cultivation base, the other immortal emperors all stepped into the Empyrean realm. For those with a lower cultivation base, they all became peak-stage immortal emperors, only a step away from the Empyrean realm. This was simply a metamorphosis. Everyone's strength had risen to a higher level. It sounded a little exaggerated. However, the person teaching them was a heavenly deity. There are countless living beings in the world. How many of them would be able to receive personal guidance from a heavenly deity? Even the people from the deity race were few and far between. How big was the deity race? They had countless people, and all the clansmen were personally nurtured by the deity race? Clearly, this was impossible. Only the most outstanding people, as well as the direct descendants of heavenly deities, would have the chance to be nurtured by the heavenly deity. The people from Qingxian received such treatment. Not only so, they even entered various secret realms that allowed them to undergo a metamorphosis. All of them experienced a complete transformation. If one wanted to talk about the person who improved the least, it was actually Qin Wentian. During these years, he entered many secret realms and divine depositories, and gained a deeper understanding of the world overlord realm. Sadly, he still had no way to enter that realm, and had no way to form a Heaven Heart mandate. The reason for this was naturally very simple. When immortal emperors entered the Empyrean realm, their attribute energies would transform into source origins, and they would be able to achieve this as long as their laws were at the peak. But for Empyreans to enter the world overlord realm, they still had to undergo a metamorphosis. The difficulty was much higher. When some of the people who had reached the peak of their respective source origins also entered the world of 10,000 laws, they all sighed in admiration at how terrifying the world of 10,000 laws was. However, they were the same as Qin Wentian. The world overlord realm was something that they could only look at but not touch. After that, Qin Wentian entered the world of 10,000 laws a few more times. Although it was extremely painful, he didn't hesitate and had to overcome the pain. Also, for the few times he entered the world of 10,000 laws, he managed to walk even further, and saw even more Heaven Heart mandates. Today in the floating city, before the imperishable Heaven Lord's divine elephant, Qin Wentian, Qing'er, Princess Kitamura, the Southern Phoenix matriarch and many others were gathered here. Qing'er, Princess Kitamura, and the Southern Phoenix matriarch have all entered the Empyrean realm. Their auras had undergone a transformation, becoming even more outstanding. They who were originally already extremely beautiful now stood together, causing the entire world to lose its color. Seeing how you guys entered the Empyrean realm so quickly, even I feel a little jealous. Qin Wentian laughed. Right now, I'm probably the only one who is still cultivating at the same level. Right now, you are pursuing the world overlord realm. It's naturally difficult. Right now, I'm also trying to comprehend the power of the world overlord realm, but I still haven't succeeded. Even with the guidance of senior heavenly deities, I still feel that it's hard to comprehend. Namfeng Yaoyue shook her head lightly. Right now, in front of Qin Wentian, she naturally wouldn't reveal the imposing aura she had when she was the Southern Phoenix matriarch back then. She only exuded a dignified and noble aura that was carved deep into her bones. During these years, she gradually got used to it and completely treated Qin Wentian as a friend. Naturally, towards this young man with supreme talent who had brought her to where she was today. Other than friendship, she also felt gratitude. Who would have thought that the friendship between the Namhuang clan and him back then would lead to today? She had already entered the legendary realm that she had always dreamed of. If this was placed in the Azure Mystic of the past, she would already be at the level of an ancient emperor. The World Overlord realm is truly not so easy to enter. Princess Kitamura also spoke in a light voice. Let nature take its course. When it comes to cultivation, it's useless even if you are anxious. You might even lose your composure. Qin Wentian casually smiled. He could feel that he was improving every day. The World Overlord realm would be completed sooner or later. There was no need to be anxious. Where are they now? Qin Wentian asked Princess Kitamura. As to why they gathered here, it was because Princess Kitamura sent a message to Qin Wentian, telling him that the experts of the heavenly deity race were already not far away from the floating city, and would soon find this floating city. Also, their target was very clear. They were rushing here. Clearly, there was someone guiding them. Qin Wentian guessed that they might have found the remnant wills of heavenly deities from the supreme ancient immortal realms. Since ancient Azure Mystic could preserve the wills of so many heavenly deities, it was the same for those heavenly deities who conquered the lower realms back then. There must be some wills of heavenly deities waiting here. Before they arrived, Princess Kitamura already knew about it. Because right now, Princess Kitamura already controlled many zombies. These zombies were all her eyes. They have already entered the floating city. Princess Kitamura spoke. Looks like it won't be long before we reach this place. Qin Wentian spoke in a low voice. Yu Huang, control them in the dark and don't come out. If there's any news, directly communicate via voice transmission. Qing or Yao Yu, the two of you continue to hide yourselves and do your own things. Cultivate well. I will blend into the crowd and temporarily handle the matters here. If I can't handle it, I will look for you guys. Be more careful. Qinger spoke with some worry. After all, the people who were about to arrive were a large group of experts. Also, the people in the lead were all from the heavenly deity race of the supreme ancient immortal realms. She couldn't help but feel worried. Don't worry. Although I haven't broken through during these years, my improvement isn't small. Also, don't forget that there's still the will of Senior Skybreak Heavenly Deity. Qin Wentian smiled at Qing. After that, he turned to Baiming Yuhuang. Baiming Yuhuang will also be watching from the shadows. If I really encounter danger, Baiming Yuhuang will naturally help me out. Qing nodded lightly. After that, she left this place. The matter of them obtaining the inheritance of a heavenly deity must definitely not be leaked out. If not, the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms outside would surely welcome a doomsday. This was too serious, even more serious compared to them killing all the experts from the heavenly deity race. How vast was the heavenly deity race? There were countless people in the heavenly deity race. Even if a few of them died, as long as they weren't core characters, they would at most attract the attention of some world overlords of the heavenly deity race. But if the people from Azure Mystic obtained the inheritance of ancient Azure Mystic, they would definitely attract the attention of the upper echelons of the heavenly deity race. At this moment, in the floating city, a group of experts entered. They were divided into many different camps, and there were also people who came purely because they wanted to. When they saw this majestic ancient city that wasn't destroyed, all of them felt intense anticipation in their hearts. They heard from the people from the heavenly deity race that this city was the center of ancient Azure Mystic. It was the place where the imperishable Heaven Lord grew up. Once, there were some heavenly deities who resided in this city. From this, one could very well imagine how terrifying it would be if the divine depositories in this city were to be excavated. Wang Yi, Yufifan has already obtained the will of a heavenly deity. Could it be that he is already here? Someone turned his gaze to Wang Yi as he asked. I have no idea. Back then, the heavenly deity of the winged god race borrowed Yufifan's body to fight against someone from Azure Mystic. After that, he vanished and no one knows where he went. Even if he is here, what can he do? How can the divine depositories of a secret realm be occupied by a single person? Wang Yi calmly spoke. You guys actually didn't kill a person from Azure Mystic directly? Someone coldly spoke. Wang Yi's eyes flashed. Back then, they should have directly killed Qin Wentian. Who would have thought that that ant obtained good fortune, and even dared to proclaim himself as the Heaven Empyrean of Azure Mystic? It was unknown if he was killed by Yu Fifan or not. They continued on their way, heading towards the center of the floating city. On the way there, they discovered that everywhere they passed, there were actually no zombies coming to disturb them. This seemed a little strange. Did you guys notice that the undead aren't on our way? Someone raised a question. Could it be because this city was a holy city back then and all the zombies here no reverence? Someone had a strange expression on his face. Let's not care so much. There's definitely a will of a heavenly deity in this city. At this moment, an expert from the heavenly deity race spoke. His tone was filled with certainty. The expressions of everyone turned solemn as their expressions turned solemn. This was the central city of ancient Azure Mystic. The remnant wills of those heavenly deities should be reluctant to leave this place, right? Chapter 1734. There were many experts around Wang Yi. In fact, he was no longer the leader. He transmitted the news of the winged heavenly deities will back to the supreme ancient immortal realms, and the clan instantly sent more experts over. Among them, there were experts with higher statuses than him. Wang Qi was one of the core disciples of the clan, a direct descendant of a heavenly deity. Right now, Wang Qi had the highest authority. However, Wang Yi didn't feel that there was anything wrong with this. This was something that should be done. In the heavenly deity race, the hierarchy was extremely strict. If he wanted to obtain a higher status, he had to grow stronger. But before he grew stronger, he could only suppress his thoughts in his heart. There seems to be someone here. At this moment, Wang Qi halted his steps. His immortal sense rapidly extended outwards, enveloping this vast region. After that, his speed soared as he sped towards a certain direction. The other experts also extended their immortal senses. After that, they seemed to have sensed something and their silhouettes flashed as they sped towards a certain direction. They came to a dilapidated palace that was now in ruins. A figure walked out from within, and when Wang Yi and the others saw this figure, many started. It was actually him. This person actually didn't die? You are still alive? Wang Yi stared at Qin Wentian. He didn't expect that the person he met here would actually be the Heaven Empyrean, who was known as the Overlord of Azure Mystic. Back then when the aftershocks of the battle ended, many people thought that he was killed by the winged heavenly deity, Yu Fifan. Qin Wentian frowned. He glanced at Wang Yi and counter-asked, "You are still alive?" Wang Yi's golden eyes gleamed with coldness. "Was it the heavenly deity in your body who guided you here?" "There's a heavenly deity's will in his body?" The eyes of everyone flashed. In an instant, countless pairs of eyes stared at Qin Wentian. "Haha, do you think a heavenly deity would stay in my body forever?" Qin Wentian laughed uproariously. "After that battle, my body isn't compatible with that heavenly deity. Hence he left my body. That companion of yours naturally chased after him. Why, is he not here?" As he spoke, his gaze swept across the surrounding people, as if he was intentionally looking for Yu Fifan. It wasn't a good thing for others to remember that there was a heavenly deity in his body. In the future he would definitely appear in the supreme ancient immortal realms. It was better for him to disguise himself and pretend that the heavenly deities will no longer had any connection with him. Wang Yi and the others believed in Qin Wentian's words. That heavenly deity of the winged god race, and Yu Fifan just so happened to be a descendant of the winged god race. Naturally, it was more suitable for the heavenly deity to be defeated. Hence, it was only natural for him to give up on Qin Wentian's body. "Then why did you come here?" Wang Yi asked. Qin Wentian glanced at him impatiently and said in a cold tone, "You're such a busybody. Aren't you here as well? Answer me." Wang Yi took a step forward, his voice incomparably domineering. "If you dare utter another word of nonsense, I'll kill you directly." Wang Qi, who was beside him, glanced at Wang Yi. He already knew who Qin Wentian was. He should be the Heaven Empyrean who claimed to be the overlord of Azure Mystic. What audacious words. Qin Wentian stared at Wang Yi as he coldly spoke. I truly want to see how you are going to kill me. You don't know the immensity of death. Wang Yi stepped out. An ant-like character from Azure Mystic actually dared to speak to him in such a manner? This was simply courting death. What sort of existence was he? He was a disciple of the heavenly deity race, and had the bloodline of a heavenly deity. Although it was only a branch bloodline, it was still incomparably powerful. How could an ant-like character from Azure Mystic be compared to him? The heavenly deity race was an existence that stood at the peak of the supreme ancient immortal realms. Boom. The sound of a bell rang out. An incomparably resplendent little bell instantly enlarged, turning into a gigantic ancient bell. This was none other than that super powerful treasure. He slapped his palm forward, and instantly, the ancient bell turned into a gigantic yellow bell. In an instant, an extremely powerful force enveloped the vast area, enveloping the space where Qin Wentian was at. Rays of terrifying light accompanied the sound of the bell as it descended, wanting to kill Qin Wentian on the spot. Qin Wentian did not dodge. He waved his palm, and in an instant, a treasure ring appeared. This treasure ring instantly enlarged, releasing an incomparably resplendent might. The center of the treasure ring was originally empty, but at this moment, boundless runic light was produced, transforming into a light screen of the great Tao. The power from the ancient bell was all trapped within, unable to hurt Qin Wentian at all. Go. Qin Wentian waved his palm, and in an instant, the treasure ring flew out like a bolt of lightning, directly flying towards the gigantic ancient bell. Careful, retract the bell, Wang Qi said. Wang Qi spoke, causing Wang Yi's countenance to sink. Although he didn't want to do so, he still controlled the ancient bell to fly out. But at this moment, boundless rays of light shot out from the treasured hoop, enveloping the ancient bell within. After which, a powerful beam of light shot out, and the ancient bell disappeared, actually being swallowed by the treasured hoop. Die! Qin Wentian roared. A terrifying killing force of the great Tao shot out from the treasure ring, directly towards Wang Yi, whose expression changed drastically. Wang Yi's eyes shot out golden light, akin to millions of golden sword qi piercing through everything. However, the light from the treasure ring still managed to pierce through them. With a piercing sound, Wang Yi's body was pierced through, as many bloody holes appeared on his body. Fresh blood flowed out unceasingly. The treasure ring rang out, and the light it emitted was resplendent. Qin Wentian's body floated in the air, arriving in front of the treasure ring. He stretched out his hand, and the light of the great Tao instantly disappeared. If I want to kill you, it would be as easy as flipping my hand. For someone like you who only relies on a divine weapon to show off, what qualifications do you have to be so arrogant in front of me? Qin Wentian emotionlessly spoke, returning the method Wang Yi used to deal with him back when they first entered the forbidden ground. Comparing divine weapons? Would he care now? In fact, he even directly took away Wang Yi's divine weapon, treating it as interest. Put away your divine weapon, let's fight. Wang Yi's eyes turned even more terrifying, as though they had completely turned golden. Are you even worthy? Qin Wentian mocked. He didn't have the leisure to accompany Wang Yi to put away his divine weapon and fight. Back then, when Wang Yi looked down on everything and used the power of his divine weapon to directly suppress him, Qin Wentian wouldn't even think of putting away his divine weapon to fight. At that time, in Wang Yi's eyes, he was a lofty existence. Killing Qin Wentian was just a matter of a single thought. Why would he waste his time? But now, although Qin Wentian couldn't kill him, he wanted to let him have a good taste of this. Hand over the divine weapon of my clan. Wang Qi coldly spoke. Although it was just a divine weapon and couldn't be considered much in his clan, it wasn't up to others to take it away. In addition, he knew that there was an elder of Wang Yi's immortal sense hidden within the divine weapon, allowing him to control it. What a joke. Do you think this is possible? Qin Wentian glanced at Wang Qi. He could sense that the status of this person before him was even higher than Wang Yi. Seems like the supreme ancient heavenly deity race sent even more experts to ancient Azure Mystic. They had to chase them back or Azure Mystic would never be peaceful again. Where did the divine weapon in your hand come from? The other experts from the heavenly deity race were more concerned about the treasured ring in Qin Wentian's hand. The sealed ancient Azure Mystic would definitely not have such a divine weapon. There was only one possibility. Only the divine depositories in this ancient battlefield would have such treasures. No matter what, you entered the ancient battlefield together with this ant. Is it very strange for you to obtain a divine weapon? Qin Wentian calmly spoke. The ant in his words was naturally referring to Wang Yi, causing Wang Yi's expression to contort. He wanted nothing more than to fight a great battle against Qin Wentian, forcefully killing him. How dare he be so impudent? But when he saw the treasured ring in Qin Wentian's hand, he didn't dare to act recklessly. This divine weapon was extremely powerful and should be a high-grade world divine weapon. I'm asking, where did you obtain it? That person spoke again. Qin Wentian stared at this expert from the heavenly deity race. As expected of someone from the lofty heavenly deity race from the supreme ancient immortal realms. All of them were extremely arrogant. Idiots. Qin Wentian directly spat out 2 words. Since this person wanted to act so arrogant in front of him, he would use an even loftier attitude to face them. He truly wanted to see what these heavenly deities from the supreme ancient immortal realms could do to him. Right now in this ancient battlefield, Qin Wentian had the confidence to do so. This place wasn't the home ground of the heavenly deity race. This place was ancient Azure Mystic, his home ground. That expert from the heavenly deity race instantly erupted forth with a terrifying aura when he heard Qin Wentian's words. His source energy instantly revolved around the space where Qin Wentian stood, as though he wanted to act against Qin Wentian. But at this moment, Qin Wentian waved his hand as the treasured ring directly flew out. A resplendent light radiated from it, instantly enveloping that expert from the heavenly deity race. What do you want? Qin Wentian stared at that expert from the heavenly deity race as he asked. Upon sensing the might of the treasured ring, that expert from the heavenly deity race turned ashen as he stared fixedly at Qin Wentian. Do you know what you are doing? That expert from the heavenly deity race coldly spoke. I'm asking you a question. What do you want? Qin Wentian's voice was tyrannical. The light from the treasured ring shot out, capable of penetrating through everything. With a piercing sound, a bloody hole appeared on his opponent's body. That expert from the heavenly deity race lowered his head and stared at his chest as his expression contorted. Impudent. He took out a divine weapon. Chi. Numerous lines of blood appeared on his opponent's body as wounds appeared on his face. The power of the treasured ring grew even stronger as the light from it grew even more resplendent. It felt like as long as Qin Wentian willed it, he would be able to kill him. My patience is limited. I'll ask you one last time. What do you want? Qin Wentian spoke for the 3rd time. Boundless light shot out from the treasured ring as killing intent gushed forth from Qin Wentian. The experts from the various powers all felt their hearts trembling when they saw this scene. Wasn't this fellow a little too crazy? He was actually so audacious, not having the heavenly deity race in his eyes at all. Could it be that he didn't understand the consequences of his actions? But no matter what the consequences were, the problem now was whether or not that expert from the heavenly deity race would compromise under Qin Wentian's domineering attitude. If he didn't, would this arrogant madman before him directly kill him on the spot? If he, an existence from the heavenly deity race, was killed here by someone from the lower realms, that would be too unjust. Chapter 1735. The atmosphere was somewhat oppressive. The other members of the heavenly deity race naturally wouldn't interfere. Qin Wentian's gaze was incomparably sharp as he stared at the heavenly deity race's expert, who wanted to attack him. Qin Wentian interrogated him 3 times in a row with an unyielding attitude, wanting the other party to give in. The light from the treasured bracelet was still as bright as ever, shooting out beams of light that could pierce through the heavenly deity race's expert at any moment. Under such intimidation, even though the heavenly deity race's expert was extremely arrogant, he still gritted his teeth and said, I unintentionally released my aura. I didn't intend to do anything. When he said this, the pride in his heart as a heavenly deity race's expert was greatly impacted. He actually gave in to someone from Azure Mystic, causing the lines on his face to distort. Unintentionally released aura. Why did it land on me? Qin Wentian continued to interrogate in a domineering manner. You. Just as the deity race expert wanted to speak, a dazzling radiance shot out from the treasure bracelet. Sizzling sounds rang out once more as fresh blood gushed out from his finger. His finger was pierced through by the radiance, and a terrifying sense of danger caused him to swallow back the words he wanted to say. He only felt extremely humiliated. My apologies, I didn't mean to offend you. He gritted his teeth and spat out another sentence, admitting his mistake. Upon seeing this scene, many people silently mused. It seemed like the heavenly deity race's experts also felt fear in their hearts. This was especially so for those followers of the heavenly deity race who were bowing and scraping in front of the heavenly deity race's experts. So what if they were from the heavenly deity race? In front of a truly domineering expert, they would still give in and throw away their arrogance. This is Azure Mystic, forget your identity. This isn't your clan's territory. In reality, if you throw away your identity, you're nothing more than this. Qin Wentian mocked. These words were directed at this person, but at the same time, it was also directed at the experts of the heavenly deity race. For example, the domineering Wang Yi felt his face burning as though Qin Wentian was humiliating him. Many experts from the heavenly deity race had sharp expressions on their faces as they stared at Qin Wentian. There were also some who revealed smiles of interest. They didn't think that this person known as the Azure Mystic Sovereign would be so interesting. Not only that, he even obtained a powerful treasure ring that could threaten the people of the heavenly deity race. Sir's words aren't without logic. We came to ancient Azure Mystic for the sake of the divine depositories. Why don't we work together? This floating city is the center of ancient Azure Mystic, and there would surely be divine depositories there. Why don't we work together to search for the divine depositories? Said an expert. His tone was very gentle, and it was easy for others to have a good impression of him. However, Qin Wentian wouldn't believe his words so easily. In addition, they came here for the divine depositories, but Qin Wentian was different. The divine depositories in this floating city were all under the control of the wills of the various heavenly deities. As long as the conditions were right, he would be able to use them. For example, the world of 10,000 laws, or the treasured ring in his hand. Join forces? What he wanted was for these people from the heavenly deity race to scram back to the supreme ancient immortal realms. In that case, all the divine depositories in the floating city would belong to him and his friends. Naturally, it was impossible for Qin Wentian to reveal such a heaven-shaking secret. He stared at the other party and smiled. Sir's words are logical. However, I advise everyone not to proceed any further. It isn't so easy to obtain the divine depositories. Oh, that expert laughed. What do you mean? Didn't you discover that there's something strange about this floating city? For example, those zombies. Qin Wentian laughed. Now that you mentioned it, I suddenly thought of something. Could it be that there's something we don't know about? An expert from the heavenly deity race asked. Truth be told, even though I managed to obtain the good fortune, I only dared to be active in the outer regions. If I dared to get close to the central regions. Qin Wentian smiled and shook his head. After experiencing it once, I don't dare to go there again. If everyone believes me, please listen to my advice. Don't go there. If not, I'm afraid there wouldn't be many among you who would be able to return alive. There are so many of us here. How can there be a 90% chance of death? Sir, aren't your words a little too exaggerated? An expert from the heavenly deity race coldly snorted. How would the prideful them believe Qin Wentian's words so easily? Could it be that the divine depositories have been discovered? Thinking of this, they glanced at the treasured ring in Qin Wentian's hand. Their gazes were filled with a burning desire. If there really was a divine depositories, if they were in Qin Wentian's position, they would also want to monopolize it. Even if they couldn't monopolize it, they would guard it and not share it with others. This was because Qin Wentian definitely knew that if the divine depositories were discovered by them, no matter how strong Qin Wentian was, he wouldn't be able to get a share. Haha, that's all I have to say. Since you guys don't believe me, you can continue searching for the divine depositories. However, if you encounter any dangers, don't blame me for not warning you. I only managed to escape with my life thanks to the treasured ring I obtained. Back then I barely made it out alive. Everyone, please think carefully. I'd better stay far away and not be implicated, Qin Wentian said as he prepared to leave. Sir, please wait a moment. The person who spoke with a gentle tone earlier shouted. Qin Wentian stopped. I've already said what I need to say. Is there anything else? What exactly is the danger? Sir, please enlighten us. That expert from the heavenly deity race only half believed Qin Wentian's words. He couldn't completely believe it, but he couldn't completely disbelieve it either. My words are already very clear. Everyone, if you guys still insist, why is there a need to ask so many questions? People of different daos can't make plans together. After speaking, Qin Wentian directly departed. Many people stared at his back as their expressions flickered, as though they were contemplating. Everyone, what do you guys think? Wang Qi asked the crowd. We naturally have to continue moving forward. Even if there's danger, we can join forces. How can we not be able to deal with it? Someone confidently spoke. Among them, there were also some experts who obtained the wills of heavenly deities. In addition to the treasures in their hands, even if the zombies were truly strange, there was no need to fear them. Everyone, let's go together. All of them came from the upper world, and were existences from the heavenly deity race. They had participated in many dangerous tempering exercises before. This time, they came to the ancient battlefield, and they were about to reach the central region of ancient Azure Mystic. How could they retreat just because of a few words of threat from Qin Wentian? However, there was still some wariness in their hearts. They just had to be careful. They didn't know that after Qin Wentian left, he took out his messaging crystal and transmitted a message to Princess Kitamura. Yu Huang, you can prepare to act now. Before this, when Princess Kitamura summoned him, the two of them had already discussed. One in the light, the other in the dark. The matters here would be handled by him and Princess Kitamura. The experts from the various heavenly deities led the experts and continued forward. As they advanced, the countless zombies in the floating city started to gather towards the central region. Not only so, the zombies in the central region also started to move. They were like the tides, moving towards a certain direction. As the experts from the various heavenly deities moved towards the central region, there were finally people who felt that something was wrong. They halted their steps. What a heavy death chi. Can you guys feel it? It's getting stronger and stronger. There's death chi moving towards us and it's extremely vast. Someone nodded. Their immortal sense frenziedly spread out, enveloping this vast region. Not long after, they finally discovered the source of the death chi. Their expressions all changed. What's going on? The expressions of someone stiffened. That person's words were actually true. The zombies in this floating city are truly strange. They actually surrounded us. Could it be that someone knows of our movements? There are still survivors of ancient Azure Mystic in this floating city? Could it be that there's really someone controlling these zombies? A sense of unease appeared in their hearts. They could sense that the number of zombies gathering here was definitely a terrifying number. Although they also had many experts, it was hard to say what would happen to them when facing against these zombies who didn't fear death. What should we do now? Someone asked. What else can we do? Let's prepare for battle. An expert from the heavenly deity race spoke. A terrifying aura gushed forth from him as a divine weapon appeared in his hands. Since they were already here, they had no other choice. Since there are zombies here, they might as well kill them all. The experts from the heavenly deity race stood in formation, exuding an imposing aura. They were inconceivably powerful. Many of the experts who came here with the heavenly deity race were filled with unease. The experts from the heavenly deity race had extremely high combat prowess and could deal with the zombies, but it was extremely difficult for them to do so. When they saw the army of zombies arriving, blotting out the sky and covering the earth, the countenances of the experts from the heavenly deity race grew increasingly unsightly. In addition, there were even more zombies rushing over. The eyes of these zombies gleamed with a demonic light, looking extremely terrifying. It was like they still had remnant wills, giving off an extremely bizarre feeling. Kill, kill, kill. In an instant, the sounds of killing shook the sky. Countless zombies blotted out the sky as they rushed towards the crowd. Many of the zombies had terrifying speed. The experts from the heavenly deity race didn't hide at the back. They took the lead and stepped out. Some of the experts from the heavenly deity race were truly like heavenly gods. Wang Qi's golden eyes enveloped the sky, tearing the void apart. He held an ancient cauldron in his hand and took it out. The ancient cauldron revolved in the air as it grew larger and larger. The body of the cauldron was incomparably deep, radiating boundless destructive light as many zombies were instantly torn apart. Another expert from the heavenly deity race seemed to have a divinity appearing behind him. Everywhere the light passed by, everything was annihilated. All of them had unique bloodlines and were extremely powerful. At this moment, they erupted forth with power at the same time, creating an incomparably resplendent scene. It was as though they were the masters of this world. However, the number of zombies was simply too great. There were still more zombies rushing into the crowd and starting a massacre. Ordinary Empyreans basically had no way to block such a fearless slaughter, let alone the fact that there were many immortal emperors among them. They were purely cannon fodder. The sounds of killing shook the sky as screams of misery rang out. The situation instantly became extremely chaotic as the casualties were extremely high. Many people instantly felt a sense of cowardice. When they saw the corpses around them being torn apart, no matter how strong their wills were, they would still waver. Let alone the fact that the people they were killing were already dead. There was no meaning to it at all. From the very start, they were already destined to lose. Everything they did seemed to be benefiting the heavenly deity race. Chapter 1736. The cruel battle continued. Very swiftly, countless experts died here. For those who were still alive, they couldn't help but to think, was it worth it to come here? They came here for good fortune, but up until now, they couldn't even find the exit. They could only brace themselves and continue forward, searching for the so-called divine depositories. Some experts from the heavenly deity race already obtained good fortune and found the ancient heavenly deity's will, but the vast majority of them gained nothing. In the air, the experts from the heavenly deity race continued their slaughter. Zombies were still zombies after all. Even if they didn't fear death, they were still dead. How could they block the slaughter of the descendants of heavenly deities? Boom! At this moment, the earth suddenly trembled, causing the hearts of everyone to pound. Boom, boom, boom. The terrifying rhythm continued, causing the hearts of everyone to pound wildly. In addition, the tremors grew increasingly intense and very swiftly, the countenances of many people changed. In their immortal senses, they saw a terrifying scene. The experts from the heavenly deity race all turned their gazes in a certain direction, only to see an incomparably gigantic body walking over. This body had no head, but it was extremely imposing, like a god of war. This was none other than the body of the Futian battle god, but in truth, it was already destroyed. His head was chopped off, and everything within his body was destroyed. Only an empty shell was left. But even so, the body of a heavenly deity still possessed an extremely powerful deterrent force. In addition, on the shoulder of the headless body, there was another figure that resembled a devil god. He was clad in black armor and had a terrifying gaze in his eyes. In his hands, there was a fearsome divine weapon. That weapon was a bow that resembled a bow used by a devil god. It was incomparably black and exuded a towering devil might, as though it could break the heavens with a single arrow. There's actually a living person in the ancient battlefield of ancient Azure Mystic? Or could it be that this person is the same as them, someone who came from the outside world? Someone stared at the devil-like figure. They didn't know that not long ago, they had already met this person. In truth, This person was none other than Qin Wentian. He first appeared with his original body, intentionally informing the other party of the danger here. After that, he used the transmogrification technique bestowed upon him by his astral soul to transform into another person, appearing here with another supreme divine weapon in his hand. Who are you? An expert from the heavenly god race walked over and stared at Qin Wentian as he asked. At this moment, their hearts were filled with shock. If he was really an outsider, could it be that he had obtained the divine treasury? In the past, your primordial race destroyed Azure Mystic. Now that you dare to come here again, I shall borrow this body to return. In the future, I will definitely slaughter the primordial race and repay this debt of blood with blood. A cold and solemn voice rang out from Qin Wentian's mouth, causing the countenances of the experts here to change. This was an ancient expert, an expert from the supreme ancient immortal realms. It was possible that he hadn't died completely and was borrowing the body of an outsider to revive, appearing before them. They didn't doubt Qin Wentian's words. This was completely logical, and their earlier conjectures weren't realistic. All of them from the heavenly deity race have yet to obtain the divine depositories. How could it be possible for others to obtain it before them? As for the people from ancient Azure Mystic, were they only at this cultivation realm? Obviously, that was even more impossible. There was only one explanation. Just as the other party had said, this was an ancient person who had borrowed a body to return. This is the body of the Futian battle god. Are you the Futian battle god? Someone stared at the body of the Futian battle god as he spoke. That expert from the heavenly deity race had sensed the will of a heavenly deity in his body and told him this. Because he knew of the Futian battle god, he thought that Qin Wentian was the Futian battle god who had returned. Seems like there's still a remnant will in your body. Qin Wentian glanced at his opponent. His body that resembled that of a devil god picked up the devil god bow and pulled the bowstring. In an instant, the heavens and earth howled in rage as a raging wind gusted by, manifesting a fearsome devilish tempest. An illusory arrow materialized on the bow, directly locking onto the body of that descendant from the heavenly deity race. That person's countenance drastically changed. He took out a round disc that shone with resplendent light, radiating boundless divine light that transformed into a supremely powerful barrier before him. Boom! Boundless devil might erupted forth in an instant. The light from the round disc directly exploded as that descendant was forced back explosively. His divine weapon blocked the attack for him, and he wasn't killed. However, at the next instant, he only saw 3 arrows shooting out. Devil might churned wildly in the air as sonic booms rang out. That person screamed in agony as his body directly exploded. Although he had the will of a heavenly deity in his body, allowing him to evade with extreme speed, he still failed to evade the arrows. These arrows had the ability to lock onto his target. At this moment, the other experts from the heavenly deity race also acted. They wouldn't sit still and wait for death. For some experts who possess the will of heavenly deities, they unleash strength comparable to world overlords, using their heaven heart mandates to attack Qin Wentian. However, Qin Wentian directly flashed, entering the body of the Futian battle god through his neck. Incomparably violent attacks slammed into the body of the Futian battle god, yet they weren't able to shake the body of this heavenly deity. The body of a heavenly deity was something that even the world-ending battle back then wasn't able to destroy. This was the true body of the Futian battle god. Even if he couldn't unleash the strength he had back then, just this body alone was impossible to shake the attacks of these people. Because the Futian battle god was once a heavenly deity, his fleshly body was even tougher than world divine weapons. But right now, a hole actually opened up in the chest of such a tough body. The arrow from the devil god bow appeared there, shooting out explosively. A terrifying expert from the heavenly deity race who was rushing over had his head penetrated by the arrow, directly exploding apart. After that, the illusory will of the heavenly deity race manifested, but it was destroyed by the next arrow. The neck of the Futian battle god was directly blocked by a gigantic palm, causing no one to be able to attack Qin Wentian who was inside the body. Boom! The Futian battle god stepped out, rushing into the crowd. The devil god Bao unceasingly shot out terrifying arrows. No one could block them. A single arrow pierced through space, causing countless bodies to explode, transforming into nothingness. There were even some who were directly trampled to death by the gigantic body of the Futian battle god. At this moment, immortal emperors were like ants. The experts from the heavenly deity race all hurriedly retreated, flying high up in the air. The Futian battle god's gigantic body halted. He stomped on the ground as thunderous rumbling sounds rang out. Resplendent runic light flashed on the ground, transforming into a grand formation. Very swiftly, a perfect formation was formed, connecting with the dark constellations in the sky. This seat can't be bothered to kill ants like you. This is the exit formation. In the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, all of you can forget about obtaining anything. Scram immediately and tell those who killed their way into Azure Mystic, wait for me. I will slaughter my way into the supreme ancient immortal realms. A tyrannical voice rang out from the stomach of the Futian battle god. He retreated and spoke, "Enter the formation and scram." As he spoke, he actually turned and departed. In this vast space, there were still many zombies. Naturally, there were also many people from the supreme ancient immortal realms. When they saw the blood on the ground and the corpses, some people felt their hearts turning cold. The hot-bloodedness they felt when they came here was completely extinguished. They hesitated for a moment before some of them stepped into the formation. After that, more and more figures stepped into the formation. Under the pressure of the general situation, more and more people entered. The expressions of some experts from the heavenly deity race grew unsightly. Were they going to leave just like that? They were filled with reluctance. "Let's go." An expert from the heavenly deity race turned and left. Even if he couldn't obtain anything in this floating city, he wouldn't leave just like that. This place was the ancient battlefield of ancient Azure Mystic. There were divine depositories hidden here. As for the exit, he would find it himself. Next, more and more experts from the heavenly deity race chose to leave. Their wills were even firmer than before. When facing danger, their ability to protect themselves also grew stronger. The gigantic body of the Futian battle god didn't obstruct them from leaving. Qin Wentian appeared from the body of the Futian battle god. His expression was cold. This ancient battlefield was simply too vast. If there were people who didn't wish to leave, there was nothing he could do about it. It was impossible for him to travel to every corner of the ancient battlefield to deal with the people from the supreme ancient immortal realms. But most probably, the battle today was sufficient to intimidate many people. At the very least, this floating city wasn't a place where people from the supreme ancient immortal realms were allowed to enter. Not long after, the vast majority of people chose to leave through the teleportation array. A minority turned and left, heading to other places to search for good fortune. Qin Wentian understood that these descendants of the heavenly deity race were all extremely powerful. It was very difficult to kill them, and they should be able to obtain some good fortune. After everyone left, the countless zombies started to move again, heading in different directions. This vast floating city would be guarded by the zombies. Qin Wentian changed back to his original appearance. His gaze turned to the horizons, and after some time, a beautiful figure appeared beside him. It was none other than Princess Kitamura. "How do you feel?" Qin Wentian asked Princess Kitamura. "A little tired." Princess Kitamura spoke in a light voice. "There are some powerful zombies, but I still have no way to control them freely. If you can truly control the zombies in this battlefield, the entire ancient Azure Mystic would become your territory. How would these people from the supreme ancient immortal realms be able to survive?" Qin Wentian laughed. Seems like the death scripture was also an extremely powerful technique. It could use one's soul to kill people, and could also control the dead. It's just that we have wronged Senior Futian battle god. His body was actually used by us to trample on. Princess Kitamura glanced at the gigantic body of the Futian battle god. Earlier, in truth, she was the one controlling the body of the Futian battle god. If Senior cares about this, why would he take the initiative to do so? Qin Wentian spoke in a light voice. The heavenly deities of ancient Azure Mystic truly had nothing to say to them. Qin Wentian felt that the responsibility on his shoulders was extremely heavy. Let's go and continue our cultivation. In the future, if there are people who come here, we can just sweep them all away. We have the guidance of the various heavenly deities, and the strongest divine depositories in this battlefield are all in our hands. Those people from the supreme ancient immortal realms wouldn't be able to obtain too much. Qin Wentian and Princess Kitamura turned and left. The body of the Futian battle god also followed after them. As the sounds of explosions rang out, very swiftly, the entire battlefield was in a complete state of chaos. In addition, in the following years, more and more people came here. But the vast majority of people couldn't pass the trial of the zombies and were expelled. The popularity of the ancient battlefield in the supreme ancient immortal realms finally started to wane. At this moment, more exits were found. Hence, as more and more people came, more and more people died. However, all of this seemed to have nothing to do with Qin Wentian and the others who were silently cultivating. They were completely immersed in their own world of cultivation. Chapter 1737. As time flowed, the situation in the supreme ancient immortal realms changed. However, those ancient heavenly deity races still stood at the peak of the supreme ancient immortal realms. In the ancient battlefield, many from the heavenly deity race had some harvests, but there were also some who gained nothing. Even the heavenly deity race was like this, let alone some world overlord powers. After they learned of the situation in the lower world, many world overlord powers also gave up. During these years, there were some powers from the supreme ancient immortal realms who acted against Heaven Empyrean City. This was because of those Empyreans killed by Qin Wentian back then. However, Di Tian had always been guarding Heaven Empyrean City, protecting everything. His heart and mind were connected. Everything Qin Wentian experienced was also his experience. Hence, even if Qin Wentian wasn't an ancient Azure mystic, his comprehension was the same. Hence, after a few invasions, they were all suppressed by Di Tian's formations, killing the Empyreans who invaded, shocking everyone. Many experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms gradually left Azure Mystic. These supreme powers from the supreme ancient immortal realms didn't have much interest in the outer Azure Mystic. Even if some of them showed a trace of interest, they would only casually walk around. In the blink of an eye, tens of years have passed since Qin Wentian entered the ancient battlefield. During this period of time, he researched some ancient records in the divine depositories and learned how to inscribe spatial formations. He went out for a trip and brought Qingcheng over. After that, when he came back, he directly set up a teleportation formation at the entrance of the ancient battlefield and directly teleported back to the floating city. After that, he destroyed the teleportation formation here. This way, it would be impossible for others to use the teleportation formation he created to come here. Although Qingcheng's cultivation base was a little low, with Qin Wentian's face, there would naturally be heavenly deities willing to guide her in her cultivation. As for the experts from the Lifefire Palace who came with him from the supreme ancient immortal realms, Qin Wentian didn't bring them here. Even Su Li didn't. This matter implicated too many things. Su Li only got acquainted with him because of Yi Qinyu. Although Su Li was very loyal to him, the implications of this matter were too great. Qin Wentian didn't dare to take the risk because he had no idea who Su Li had connections with in the supreme ancient immortal realms. As for the people from Azure Mystic, it was impossible for them to have any connections with people from the supreme ancient immortal realms. This place was their home. They would definitely stand on the same side. During these years, Yi Qinyu also came to look for him, asking him why he didn't return to the supreme ancient immortal realms, and if he was planning to abandon her. These words were naturally a joke, in line with Yi Qinyu's personality. Qin Wentian told her that he finally obtained good fortune in ancient Azure Mystic, and was focusing on his cultivation. He would tell her in detail when he returned. Hence Yi Qinyu didn't continue asking. Clearly, she understood the gravity of the situation. She naturally knew about what happened in Azure Mystic. The lifelong realm had even sent 4 palace lords to the Azure Mystic immortal realms. Today, in the western region of the floating city, there was an incomparably dilapidated ancient palace. But according to the heavenly deities, this palace was once a place of faith for countless people, and was worshipped by countless experts. It was a supremely powerful Buddhist sect that had countless branches and ancient temples spread across the entire ancient Azure mystic. This place was revered by countless people like a divinity. In fact, the Skybreak heavenly deity even told Qin Wentian that the relationship between this Buddhist sect and the imperishable Heaven Lord wasn't bad. They were good friends and would often chat and play chess together. From this, one could imagine what sort of existence was qualified to sit together with the imperishable Heaven Lord and play chess together. The Buddhist sect contained 90,000 scrolls of the Great Tao, but after the world-ending battle, not many of them could be found. But even so, the ancient scrolls that remained were still extremely profound. Hence, the Skybreak heavenly deity intentionally brought Qin Wentian here to comprehend them. During the process of comprehending a world heart, one could add in their own comprehensions of cultivation. It wasn't just purely a fusion of source origins. In this case, the heaven heart mandates formed from the fusion of two source origins wouldn't have such a great disparity. The reason for the disparity was because of the difference in the comprehension of each individual. Everyone would add their own comprehensions into their heaven heart mandates. This comprehension included innate techniques and secret arts, as well as their comprehension of the heavenly Tao. Powerful innate techniques and secret arts could also help one to form a powerful heaven heart mandate, or even directly comprehend a world heart. All of this was the experience of those who had walked the path before them. At this moment, Qin Wentian quietly sat before a dilapidated Buddha statue, and quietly flipped through some ancient scrolls. The words in these scrolls were directly imprinted into his mind. The Tao scriptures of the Buddhist sect were extremely profound. Qin Wentian was completely immersed in them, engraving everything he saw into his mind. I didn't expect that the Wenshin Temple is actually just a branch of this Buddhist sect. Qin Wentian mumbled. He flipped through the remnant scrolls of the Buddhist sect, and discovered that the Wenshin Temple was actually a branch of this Buddhist sect. The Wenshin Temple didn't care about right and wrong. This time around they didn't come here. Seems like he should bring Reverend Tianxin here to take a look if there was a chance. In front of Qin Wentian, there was an ancient scroll with words engraved on it. Great Nirvana Immortal Art. Second volume. After a long time, Qin Wentian placed all the ancient scrolls in his hand down. The divine depositories here should all belong to this place. He didn't wish to take them away. If there was a chance, he hoped that he could restore the prosperity of these divine depositories, allowing people to know about them once more. Senior, I wish to go to the world of 10,000 laws again. Qin Wentian transmitted his voice to the Skybreak heavenly deity. Right. The Skybreak heavenly deity naturally agreed. The world of 10,000 laws was the place Qin Wentian went to the most. Not only could he comprehend insights there was also another important use. He could try fighting against different heaven heart mandates. However, the prerequisite was that he had to have a certain level of strength. Qin Wentian walked out of the ancient palace and was preparing to head to the world of 10,000 laws. At this moment, an imposing voice rang out in his mind. Qin Wentian, are you there? This voice wasn't angry, but it was filled with might. Clearly, someone was transmitting a message to him. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with a strange light. This should be the first time the lifelong Realm Lord is transmitting a message to him, right? Back then, the lifelong Realm Lord told him to leave a strand of his immortal sense in his messaging crystal, but he had never used it before. The relationship between the two of them was already very complicated. But after that, since the lifelong Realm Lord allowed him to become the Lifefire Palace Lord and didn't do anything to him, Qin Wentian didn't want to be calculative about other matters. Realm Lord, what instructions do you have? Qin Wentian replied. Why haven't you returned to the Lifefire Palace after so many years? The grand banquet that happens once every 100 years is about to begin. Could it be that you are not planning to come back to see me? The lifelong Realm Lord's tone was filled with coldness. This subordinate has important matters to attend to. I hope Realm Lord can forgive me. Qin Wentian maintained a polite attitude as he replied. Important matters? You brought so many experts of the Livefire Palace into Azure Mystic? What's going on with Princess Kitamura? I told her to follow the Skyer Palace Lord to the lower realms. Why was she brought away by you? The lifelong Realm Lord coldly asked, his words causing Qin Wentian's eyes to flash. This matter was actually known by the lifelong Realm Lord. In that case, those palace lords who entered ancient Azure Mystic didn't actually die here. Replying to Realm Lord, Yu Huang is my senior apprentice sister. Also, her father is together with me. She would naturally train together with me. Qin Wentian understood that since the lifelong Realm Lord already received the news, he would definitely know that he and Yu Huang were an ancient Azure Mystic. Is that so? I heard that you even fought against the Skyer Palace Lord and almost killed him. As the Livefire Palace Lord, you are truly glorious. Yet you even dare to doubt my orders? The lifelong Realm Lord coldly snorted, as though he was here to question Qin Wentian. This subordinate has already explained the reason earlier. I hope that Realm Lord can forgive me. Qin Wentian was still as polite as ever. Did you encounter any good fortune in ancient Azure Mystic? The lifelong Realm Lord suddenly asked. No, ancient Azure Mystic is too vast. It's very hard for me to obtain any good harvests. I did encounter many dangers, but I'm currently searching for them. Qin Wentian replied. There's no need for that. Come out immediately and return to the Livefire Palace. Bring Princess Kitamura here for the lifelong banquet. The lifelong Realm Lord commanded. Realm Lord, there are many secrets hidden in ancient Azure Mystic and many good fortune. This subordinate wishes to stay here for a few more days. Qin Wentian spoke. Impudent. The lifelong Realm Lord coldly snorted. His voice directly rang out in Qin Wentian's mind, causing Qin Wentian's expression to stiffen, feeling somewhat unhappy. You only need to obey. The lifelong Realm Lord directly spoke. There's no need to reply. Qin Wentian stood at his original location. As expected, the lifelong Realm Lord didn't say anything else. However, Qin Wentian's expression was extremely unsightly to behold. The lifelong Realm Lord actually gave a death order, telling him to return. The current him originally could completely disregard the lifelong Realm Lord's orders. However, Yi Qinyu and the others were still in the Livefire Empyrean's palace. If he didn't return, the lifelong Realm Lord might not be able to do anything to him. What happened? The Skybreak Heavenly Deity asked. I'm the subordinate of a world overlord in the supreme ancient immortal realms. He ordered me to return. Qin Wentian replied. What do you think? Are you not going to return after you completely break through to the world overlord realm? The Skybreak Heavenly Deity asked. Let me consider it. Qin Wentian replied. The Skybreak Heavenly Deity didn't say anything more. In the external world, in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom of Azure Mystic, the Skyer Palace Lord, Xianyuan Palace Lord and Dragon Saddle Palace Lord were all here with a group of subordinates. However, the number of subordinates they had was greatly reduced. In fact, even the Kungvuda Palace Lord was nowhere to be seen. Those people would forever remain in ancient Azure Mystic, unable to come out. It was also a stroke of luck that they managed to come out. Right now, they were planning to return, but Princess Kitamura has yet to come out. The Skyer Palace Lord had no way to report back and had no choice but to report back to his master. At this moment, the silhouette of the Skyer Palace Lord flashed as he appeared in the city, appearing before a person. A powerful might radiated from him. That person stared at the Skyer Palace Lord as he trembled with fear. Senior. Let me ask you a few questions. Answer me honestly. The Skyer Palace Lord spoke. Yes, Senior. That immortal emperor nodded. Although he was an immortal emperor, the person before him was definitely an ancient emperor. He couldn't afford to antagonize him. The current Azure Mystic was truly too terrifying. Do you know of Qin Wentian and Princess Kitamura? Naturally. Qin Wentian is the Heaven Empyrean of Azure Mystic, and is now the Overlord of Azure Mystic. Princess Kitamura was once the princess of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, the daughter of the Dark North Immortal Emperor. How is their relationship as apprentice siblings? The Skyer Palace Lord asked. Apprentice siblings? that immortal emperor started. Are you referring to the Heaven Empyrean and Princess Kitamura? MHM. The Skyer Palace Lord frowned. That immortal emperor hurriedly spoke. Senior. But from what I know, they have never been apprentice siblings. The eyes of the Skyer Palace Lord froze as a terrifying gleam of sharpness flickered in his eyes. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.